Alright, hey everybody, this is Meso. Before you listen to this episode, here's a quick disclaimer. So midway through the recording of this episode, we launched into a debate about the role of mask powers in our BIONICLE G3 fan reimagining project. And this debate was pretty intense, so much so that we actually continued it after we recorded the podcast. Like, after we stopped recording this episode, we continued talking. But we never really removed a recording program, so we caught it all on audio, caught our continued after-show discussion. And we came to some important realizations during that post-podcast discussion. So, for the sake of actually getting the full picture, I have included the after-show discussion in this recording. This is why the podcast looks so incredibly long. If you want to skip to various segments, I have put the timestamp in the discussion below, where the episode ended proper, and then where the after show begins, and also where our big solution that we discovered was first proposed during said after show recording. I feel it's important to include the two together simply because I don't want a bunch of people leaving outdated thoughts on this episode before next week's podcast and us not being able to respond to them properly, etc. Once people have the full context, they can leave their thoughts and whatnot. So, hope you enjoy the episode. Just wanted to give an explanation for why it's so long. Again, you don't need to listen to all of it. I'll just post everything in the timestamps below if you want to skip to whatever part interests you the most. Hope you enjoy, and we'll see you later.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1,
sync. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TTV podcast, episode 254.
Mardi Gras.
We're revving the engine up.
I'm Meso.
I'm Var.
I'm Eljay.
I'm Jonathan
I thought you were
Dwan.
going to say something. I'm Ven.
And I'm Tenebrae Invictus.
And that was pretty funny, guys. Welcome to TTV 254.
Or are you revving
Super
up
funny.
the
That's
episode?
funny. Too funny.
How you doing,
So-
Var?
Start up the Gras.
We gotta start up the Gras, guys. It's gonna charge.
Can we address something
Let's address
regarding Mardi Gras? Because we have a topic on our message boards, things you dislike about the channel. And 19 hours ago, Kahi posted a reply to a permanently banned member, so good job there. Someone who had said,
I
I
can still
hate
reply to
Mardi
him.
Gras. It was funny for 5 minutes, and then I just found it annoying. And then he says, I absolutely
Annoying.
hate the Mardi Gras too. But just like disco, people won't let it die. To where everyone
Isn't
immediately
disco dead?
stood in opposition. Kahi, we need to have
Who
an
even-
intervention.
Who,
It's not
who
going
likes
anywhere.
disco anymore?
Disco's
Disco's
kind of made
straight up
a
dead.
comeback.
Yeah,
like,
disco's
in
making a
mainstream
comeback,
music.
man. Yeah.
Name
I believe
one
you.
modern day disco song.
Not modern day disco, just that they take like certain aspects of it, like the guitar playing. I mean, if you listen
But
to
it's not
Daft
disco,
Punk,
though.
Is there guitar
it's-
playing in disco?
My favorite song
Yeah.
is the
What
Risco,
does disco sound like? I don't
Disco
actually know.
Summer 2017 Chill Step Remix.
Shut up.
I don't know if that's true or
Did
not.
anyone understand a word that he just said?
He said
sounded
remix
like
at the
he
end.
said-
That's
Was
what I
that-
got.
Yeah.
was
I
that
heard.
English?
Yeah, I heard remix.
Risco Disco. It's real.
Meso,
So
go
I
home.
understand people here still
I
want to do the
understand
Mardi
your
Gras.
buzzkill.
I think it's stupid, and I'll continue to, but like we're still gonna do it, so it doesn't matter what I think. I'm bringing it up like it's a big thing. I don't do it. I think it's dumb that we do it because it's like a joke that makes no sense. It's unprofessional, and all that stuff. But sure,
Oh my
okay.
god.
You just wanna
like
take
you're the
out all
paragon
the
of
personality.
professionality.
Listen. I'm not saying take the personality out of it. I'm saying screaming Mardi Gras at the beginning of our podcast is not the great first impression. That's all.
That
I'm
was
saying.
the first time I've screamed Mardi Gras since like
You
episode
know what
200.
else doesn't make sense? And
It didn't even sound like you screamed Mardi Gras. It just sounded like you screamed.
you know what else doesn't make sense, John? I'm Gus, Bernie, Barbara, Gavin, and I'm Gus.
I was just about
I
to say
also
that.
think that's kind of dumb. To be
You've
honest,
got to be kidding me. Do you
I
just
also think
not
it's kinda
like
dumb.
personality in anything?
No, I don't listen. You keep trying to know it's personality. It's not personality.
It's the
just a
personality.
joke.
Okay,
of
it's definitely
it's-
personality.
It's a dumb joke. We keep doing it all the time.
It's a home
it's
joke
not-
as opposed
not-
to an away joke.
Homegrown.
It's not a dumb joke. It's a way of life.
How is,
Exactly.
so you're saying it's not personality because you think it's dumb?
Well, no, I'm saying that it's not the entirety of her personality. It's like just saying that I don't
I
like
think it's
it.
the
Therefore, you're
entirety
trying to
of your
take away-
personality,
Trying to
'cause
take
you're
away all
dumb.
the personality.
Yeah, I
of
agree.
the
Then
podcast.
I agree.
Man, I just think it's.
I
Oh, so we're
think
gonna
that
continue
you
to do
want
it. We're
to
gonna
suck
continue to do
the
it.
enjoyment out of everything.
It's
Yeah.
not
Yeah, dude.
everything. It's
Yeah, dude.
just the Mardi Gras.
Let's talk about the Legos again today.
See,
On the
you're
other
part
hand-
of the reason why Bionicle's dead now.
Exactly. You sucked out all the
Bionicle.
personality.
Sucked out its quality with a straw.
Yeah.
You sucked out its personality.
You suck.
You just suck.
I'm playing the Mardi Gras song because people don't interrupt me.
Oh, and
I'm sorry,
kinda
Mr.
like
What were you saying?
the cherry on top.
Dang it,
You
I was waiting for you to
misspelled
say
Mardi
something
Gras.
so I could interrupt you.
Yeah. The cherry on top is that I skipped the Mardi Gras this year.
What was that?
So
No,
anyway,
not you, Meso. As Kahi misspelled it, even when the proper spelling was right in front of him.
Oh, nice.
Wait, what? What did I misspell?
Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.
Like, I don't know.
It was
Gras
quite
ends
the
with an S.
Marty flaw.
I love my Mardi Gras.
The post had a Mardi
Dude.
flaw.
Mardi Gras is the
Come on,
best
guys.
kind of
I
grass.
think it's time we started a Mardi
Listen,
Gras
we don't
roots.
do. Listen, when we say the Mardi Gras, we actually do the.
I do like
that's the distinction.
I like that you're calling him out for misspelling it because he didn't include an S, and then we immediately followed that by making fun of grass. So that's what he said, but that's actually the right way to spell it.
Nice. Mardi Gras.
You're so dumb for spelling it right. Haha, Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras.
Alright.
Anyway,
Don't
you're
make
dumb.
me come over there to kick your grass.
How about
Oh
how
my
about that
gosh.
there weather? Anybody said interesting weather?
Wow, you said on Canada Day.
Oh, hey, nice.
Are you Keeney?
Because I actually had some
Untitled.
interesting
Who
weather
decides
this week.
these days?
It's,
Who's the
uh,
guy like deciding today's Canada Day?
decided
If there-
4th? It just
If there are any Canadians watching this podcast, welcome. We hate Canada. Go away.
Why do you
Wow.
think
How
Keeney
dare
isn't
you
here
say
anymore?
that? That's not professional, VAR.
Yeah, dude. That's not a personality.
So over the last week or so, not
If
only
you're in
have I
Australia,
had-
we especially hate Australia. It's funny because, like I said, we hate Canada, and then like people left.
after months of a dry spell, this week there was a tropical storm right off my coast, and I got about a week straight of nonstop torrential downpours,
Really?
waking up every day to tornado warnings and some hail, which was strange to see. in the
Whale,
summer.
whale, whale.
Whale,
What?
whale,
You
got hail.
hail. It was pretty insane this week from Mississippi. Like, it's raining right now, but it's not. I don't think there's a tornado warning today. I think it's abated, but it's been crazy for me. Like, I never get snow, but I get freak.
Dude, when are you gonna move?
I wish I had rain.
Give me a money infusion. I'll take it.
You've had a money
Win the
infusion. It's
lottery,
called a
that's
job.
How much money infusions do you need?
We've been talking about this for a
lot
good
more
while,
than I got.
man.
I tell you what.
Remember earlier he was like, "I'm gonna be moving early, 2017."
Yeah, I remember that.
Dude,
we were
he's
talking
been
about this
saying
last year.
ever since I've known him. I'm gonna be moving 2014.
I have been looking
Okay,
into places, but there's
2015.
availability is hard to come by. No, that's how I
It's hard
need
to
it.
come by.
Meso. We should trade weather though. I haven't had rain in like almost 2 months.
That was my thing. Like, it shocked me because I'm not used to it. But it's been every
Torrential
day.
rain.
Dude, I have rain like every week.
I'll take that action.
It's
Like
just
rain.
so hot.
I'll
It's
trade
so
with
hot
you.
here. I took a road trip earlier this week up to the
Oh,
Grand
yeah, I
Canyon.
want in on some of that action.
Well, I took a road trip and it was like a 30-degree change. It's been like almost 110 here this whole week, and it was nice because it was like 87 over in the Grand Canyon. It actually felt kind of cold.
Yeah,
well,
I
not
know.
cold, but like
Oh my god.
not burning hot.
How was the Grand Canyon?
It's pretty
great?
cool.
Very nice.
I don't know. It's like you look at it, it almost looks like you're looking at this giant picture, like almost like a 2D image, but
I'm gonna call it the
It's-
Granyon.
the Granyon. Oh my
I
goodness.
feel like it's redundant.
All right, well, I'm done with my story in that case.
That
Wait, I
is-
wasn't listening. Can you say it again?
When
Gotta
I,
go on,
Granyon.
Mesa.
you went on a road trip and weather changes happen.
Oh, I don't care.
You don't care about the Grand Canyon or the Granyon?
I don't care about the Grand Canyon. I don't care about Canada, and I especially don't care about Australia.
I'm just
Fine,
Australia.
there's no
No,
hex
no, no,
today.
It's okay, because Lego don't either.
Oh, I never get sets. That's why it's funny.
I especially hate the good old USA.
Oh, okay, VAR, hold on.
Alright, well.
As
I
I
also
slow
hate
that
purple
boat.
people.
What's
Slow
some,
that boat.
What's some
Whoa.
stuff that's happened? Do you want to talk about?
Application.
What?
What's some stuff we want to talk about before G3, if anything?
Okay, so we need to make a video
I saw
about...
Transformers.
Thank
I
you.
don't care.
Was
It
it a
sucked.
good movie? No, okay.
That sucks.
Surprise, surprise, guys. Transformers sucked. Also, the sky is blue. And there's crime in Gotham.
I told you the sky was blue.
As of this
You didn't tell
day,
me
they were
anything.
1 month away from Brick Fair, so that's...
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. We need to make a video about it. But we are a month away from
Everyone's
Brick
going
Fair,
except
Virginia.
for everyone.
Everyone's going except for... Fwef
Possibly.
and probably Purple.
I'm not going. I changed my mind.
So,
I think I had a dream last night where I went to Brick Fair, but I forgot to tell people that I was leaving.
Dude, I have, like, traumatic dreams about Brick Fair, like, on a regular basis.
What?
Like, I don't know,
What?
it's something deeply, like, embedded in my psyche. I'll dream, like, not specifically Brick Fair, but, like, I'll travel somewhere and, like, something will go wrong. I'm not lying. I'm scared I'm paranoid that travel's gonna get messed up, because it
Maybe
always
we
happens.
should just stop going to Brick Fair.
First
And,
year, I took a 30-hour train ride,
Maybe.
and then got massive delays. Second year, my flight got canceled, and I was stuck at an airport for, like, 8 hours. I'm just, like, I'm nervous. I had a dream, like, I forgot to bring my computer and my phone and, like, my money. I had another dream that my flight got delayed 7 hours. You guys all left me.
you know,
Nice.
I had a
at
dream
first-
that you didn't
True to life.
exist,
At
and
first,
the
I was
world
gonna
was
say
happy.
that like this is a really weird thing for you to dream about. But now that I think about it, if it's the only social event you have all year, it kind of makes sense. I have like stressings about social stuff. Except that it's like every day, you know,
It's
like
not so
I
much
do something.
social,
like,
it's more
everything.
like whenever I've traveled very few times in my life. Whenever I've traveled, something's gone wrong.
Yeah, you have limited
There's
good
never
experiences.
been a time where I've got like a flight or a train and it's just gone off without a hitch. Ever.
Meanwhile, everything has always gone right for me.
Yeah.
Except
Good
for that,
for you.
Except for that one time I missed my flight to New York, and they gave me another one for free, like immediately after.
Oh wow. Huh. Guess it wasn't so bad after all.
I missed a flight once and I had to stay an entire day. What?
Yeah, same.
Likewise.
Yeah, I got another flight straight over there.
Lucky
It's fine.
you.
You know, if they asked you to give up your seat now, remember that was a whole thing of that United guy. You can
No,
some
I
people
forgot
actually make
all
a
about it.
Some people might have. You can actually do this thing. Some people actually like have a not a career, but like do this on a regular basis, where they will continuously give up their flights for more money. So they'll say, "We'll give you like $1,500 to give up your seat on this flight," and they do that, and they get
That's
another
like
thing that's
so
overbooked.
much
And they
effort,
keep-
though.
So and they stay in a hotel for free for like 4 days, and they make like thousands of dollars.
I don't want to live in a hotel.
But why? You gotta make that money.
I don't want to live in a hotel, though.
Var, think about it.
Yeah.
It's 1,500 a day.
Wait, okay,
Dude,
so far you
I make that in my dreams.
That's nice.
So you can just sleep through that and make that much money. I didn't realize that. I apologize, Var. You didn't realize your your strategy.
That's great.
I am literally a billionaire in my dreams. You can't get any better than that.
It's all that matters.
Well, I think you can get a little better than that.
No, dude.
You can be a
Yeah, man.
trillionaire in your dreams, man.
You can be a
Your dreaming's
billionaire
so small.
in real life.
I am J.K. Rowling in my dreams.
Oh,
Wow.
You're a middle-aged woman in your dreams?
Oh, yeah. Life is good.
What else?
that's so enthusiastically. Oh yeah.
It's all I've ever wanted to be.
So in your dreams, you got the cursed child, huh? Dream
Yeah.
bigger,
Oh,
man.
no.
Oh man, that reminds
J.K.
me of
Rowling
something,
getting right,
but
the
it's
cursed
not
child.
You
appropriate for the
approved the
podcast.
cursed child in your dreams.
Listen, by approved, it just means, hey Jay, we got a. Hey Joe, we've got a new
Well.
book out. You wanna read it? Nope. All right, cool. Thanks, Joe.
The
That's
cursed
going out.
child. There we go.
Another thing that happened this week that might be of interest.
No one cares, Meso.
Marvel's Inhumans had a trailer.
It sucked.
That's basically the gist of it.
We are very
Good
Very-
summary.
Is this like the break
Antagonistic
feed for
podcast.
everything today? Is that what we're
Yeah.
doing? We're just going through the news docket?
We do our
I mean,
usual
it's got
like,
released.
20
all the
minutes.
things we have negative feelings about.
I saw Baby Driver.
Purple's-
That was really awesome.
Nice.
Purple's in
Sorry.
the chat.
I
She's
saw
not here.
Adult Driver. It sucked.
Purple, where's Art Farts 2?
It's purple.
Yeah,
in the
purple.
chat.
Turn the
Is she
audience
the-
against
I
her.
don't think she's in the
She's in the call.
Did she change her name?
Dude, she's
Yeah,
literally
she's
Spike.
literally Spike, man. Come on now.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize that she really liked Cowboy Bebop.
Cowboy Bebop's like a good thing, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, wait,
I've never seen it,
She
so I
doesn't
wouldn't
like. She doesn't like Cowboy Bebop. What is she talking about?
Now, something
She doesn't have good
that
taste.
was positive this week,
Exactly.
Spider-Man Homecoming is getting its reviews.
It is.
it sucked.
Getting good reviews. It's gonna be neat.
We haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I figure whenever when we next do TTV talks, not like if we do an episode today, but whenever we next do one, we'll probably be about Spider-Man.
Sounds good.
We gotta talk about that. I don't know, like I mentioned
Yeah, that is
Inhumans.
next
It
weekend.
doesn't feel good to see a Marvel thing come out and not like it because that's not the norm. Especially with trailers. Trailers are supposed to get you hyped for
It's
things.
a norm for me for TV shows.
Even the Iron Fist trailer looked good. You know?
Really?
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, it looked better than Inhumans, that's for sure.
Inhumans
Oh,
looks
well,
like literal trash. It looks
Like
like a
actual
fan.
garbage.
It looks like a fan film on like a fan budget, except for the dog, which also looks fan filmy, but the CGI is too good for a budget. It has to be official.
Yeah, I feel like you can tell that they don't really care about the show.
To
They're
which
just
I
putting it
say,
out there
why
because...
even make it? It's not like it's gonna make waves for the universe. It's
Yeah,
not like
I'm not really
it's
sure
gonna
who's
be-
clamoring to see the Inhumans TV show.
People wanted to like. I was interested back when I thought it was gonna tie into Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. It'd be like a TV universe.
They're
Now
probably
that I know
trying
it
to
isn't,
follow up on some promises of giving us some sort of Inhumans media, because like a long time ago they announced the Inhumans movie, and they've been trying to build up Inhumans with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and now...
Well, okay, so here's the
They're doing
deal.
the show.
Apparently, what I was reading is that Ike Perlmutter, who is the, he's essentially, for those
There
who
we
don't know,
go.
yeah, here
real
comes-
quick
here comes
quick
Anthony
summary.
Perlmutter.
Feige's
It's
the
not
guy.
gonna be quick.
Feige's the guy who makes it all happen. Perlmutter was his boss, who was really stingy in money, didn't like doing anything. Perlmutter got forced to TV when he didn't want Iron Man to be in Civil War, and Feige said, he's in Civil War or I'm out. And Disney said, hey, you make all our money, we're going to let you. Long story short, Feige wanted Captain Marvel, and Perlmutter said, only Captain Marvel if we do the Inhumans movie. And he said, okay, fine, sure, we'll do Inhumans. Then he was pushed to TV, and they said, well, we're going to take Inhumans, we're going to throw that out, because we don't want to do that anymore. And then Perlmutter, scrapped it for TV. That's it.
Which sucks because people were hoping, I never really cared about the Inhumans movie, to be honest, but people were throwing out, dream casts. Vin Diesel really wanted to be Black Bolt, which I thought would be cool, and that would have been incredible, having Vin Diesel in Marvel. Instead, we've got this
He's
guy
in
who's
Marvel.
in the trailer.
He is in Marvel.
Actual Vin Diesel, you know what I mean?
He's actually Vin Diesel.
No, he's not. He's
Yeah,
a CGI
man.
voice.
I like the idea
Iron
of Vin
Diesel.
Diesel being in Marvel, but they split up his actual physical body and his voice.
Oh,
The
yeah, totally.
voice to
That's it,
Groot
too.
and then
Black
the body
Bolt-
to Black Bolt.
Black Bolt never speaks essentially. So
Exactly, it would work.
It would work
very
so much.
perfectly.
I don't
It's
want
like you have
actor
Groot
bash.
and then Black Bolt in the room together.
I don't want to actor bash because I don't really like doing that all that much, but the dude they've got to play Black Bolt in this show doesn't work for me in any sense of the word. He looks
None of them
dorky.
work,
He has
except
no
for
screen
Maximus.
presence, or he doesn't look imposing. The special effects for his voice look like trash. He grunts. It's like ugh.
Wait. The special effects for his voice
He did a tiny grunt.
look like trash.
Yes, he did a tiny grunt, and
That's a very
his
interesting
mouth
sentence.
glossed over and lit up, and then a shockwave came out of his mouth and knocked over a police car, and it looks terrible. I'll post a screenshot, but basically, I've never felt this bad about a Marvel property. I know people don't really like Iron Fist, but from what I've seen of Iron Fist, it's passable. And
Iron
the
Fist
trailer,
is fine.
The trailer was certainly hype worthy. This just looked like garbage.
It's way better than people give it credit for, Iron Fist. But people gave it credit
still
for
not the best
20%
show.
on Rotten Tomatoes. It's still
Exactly.
the worst out of the Netflix shows. Definitely.
Definitely. Yeah, let's see if I can get I'm trying to find a picture of Black Bolt because it's hilarious. But
Then,
anyway, go on.
for reference, Black Bolt's voice effects, they're basically Daisy's, shockwaves.
Yeah, except in the comics, he's supposed to be able to destroy entire planets by speaking.
Oh, yeah, no,
But in
yeah.
this show, grunting will just flip a cop car.
I mean, just grunted.
Yeah,
A
but,
fraction of
Yeah,
his
no,
power.
but he would
It's a
he would
nerf.
whisper. That was the whole thing. He would whisper and things would just crumble around him. It was like a giant shockwave.
Okay, I got the picture. Yeah, he's been severely nerfed in order to work within the confines of the show.
He's been nerfed.
Here's what I meant about the shockwave effect. and how they look bad. I don't think that picture will embed for whatever reason. Okay, no, it did. and then he's got like shockwaves coming out of his mouth in the trailer that aren't captured there.
It just looks like. Okay, first of all, that reaction shot when your cast member on TTV and LEGO cancels Bionicle again.
It's a really bad shot because he does that face and then he just goes, and then like a car moves.
It's bad. Well, anyway, we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Hey, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man, yeah, Spider-Man.
It's
Spider-Man.
It
It's getting
hasn't.
some good reviews.
Let me see. I don't think it's been certified fresh yet.
It's close.
As much as that matters.
It will.
Oh no, it absolutely will. It's hovering right around 93%.
I think it might beat out Wonder Woman, unless it gets another negative review.
That's 93 is 1.1 percentage more than Wonder Woman, and 92.
There are. I can see why, like, with the reviews I've seen, I can see why certain reviewers might not like it.
Definitely.
But the majority of people that have seen it seem to really like it.
It's apparently very small scale, which I like.
Yeah. Well, it's a high school movie. That
Yeah,
is,
I'm
they
down.
make that pretty.
I'm so down.
pretty clear.
I'm tired
It's-
of all these large scale Spider-Man movies.
He's
that
like
are-
it's a
that
whole
are
deal
about
now
to
where
come out.
he's a kid and he's in high school and they don't shy away from that, and that might turn off some people who are like diehard Raimi fans or whatever, or just people who just don't want to see a high school movie or aren't expecting that. But for fans, it's like exactly what you want.
Definitely.
That's the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
100%.
Sounds
Interestingly
like the
enough,
exact opposite of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Good. So it's a good movie.
Yeah, basically. That's how it goes.
apparently it's tied with Logan right now, and Logan was like super good.
Logan's
Good old
phenomenal,
Logan.
but there is Logan depends on the franchise
True.
to get this good. I feel. I don't
Spider-Man
think if you
is
release
Spider-Man's a
Logan, it's
second
not as.
reboot. It has its work cut out for
Yeah.
it.
But it's from what people are saying, it's an origin story without being the origin story. So it's like an origin of Spider-Man, but you don't see him get bit by the spider. You don't see Uncle Ben. You don't see that whole
It's just
thing
him-
happen again. It's just how
doing
he
stuff
becomes
like-
the Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
That's excellent. My biggest concerns before actually seeing the movie, because next time we're on we'll have seen it, is the supporting cast. Basically everybody in the supporting cast I'm unsure or nervous about. Flash, Liz Allen, Michelle,
right, I have come around.
Gonke.
I've said it before in private. I'm going to say it publicly. I've come around Zendaya after watching there's all the TV spots and clips from the movie and some of the interviews. I was unsure because it's just like that reputation of a Disney person kind of coming
Yeah.
forward. But she has a lot of natural chemistry with Tom Holland, and her character seems to be really pulling it.
I got
So-
faith.
Yeah.
I have a feeling I'm gonna like her character too.
Alright. Well, what say you to moving on to BIONICLE G3 for the week? Unless there's anything else I want to mention.
No, let's talk
People
about
immediately
Spider-Man
leave.
for a bit longer.
I like it, man.
Spider-Man G3.
Alright.
It is technically Spider-Man G3.
This is G3!
It is G3 for Spider-Man. So there you
Wow.
go. Miracles can
Alright.
happen,
Nice.
guys.
So every week we do a disclaimer, and VAR keeps interrupting me, but it's not official. BIONICLE G3 or Brickonicle is a fan-made reimagining of the BIONICLE franchise, a system theme. It's not official. LEGO's not involved. It's TTV run, TTV managed with assistance from the TTV community.
2018 official release.
It's not real. So if you're watching this and you're like, I don't know what BIONICLE G3 is,
confirmed for 2019
I'd advise you to look at the description or hear me when I say it's fan-made.
Real.
We've been making great strides, and in a couple weeks, I think we'll be done with year one. I know, Var, you've been working up a story Bible, which I'm not sure is ready to be shown off yet.
No,
but
it's
you're
not.
getting
Not ready.
there.
It's
By
not ready.
next
Not even
week
close.
or the week after, we're gonna have a complete story Bible. And it's gonna
I'm
be
like
great.
15 pages in, and I haven't even gotten to the freaking region of Earth.
Well, all right. then.
We have a
Real
lot
quick.
of stuff, honestly, that we
Yeah, we really
fleshed
should have
out.
kept up with our story Bible as we were going.
Well-
we should have. The issue is that we were pitching stuff, and if you listen to older episodes, there's stuff that we talk about that's no
Yeah.
longer even close.
Yeah,
to
but the
being
thing
relevant.
is, you can
you're,
always-
you're getting a little bit of heat from people because you haven't kept the canonization
And I'm
topic on the
like,
board's up to date.
It's difficult because it fluctuates. Like that's
Yeah,
what
because
Paul
like
said.
I mean, we still don't know exactly what we're doing with like the time freezing plot. You know, we're not exactly sure what we're doing with like the plots with the Brotherhood and all that stuff.
Could have updated it with other things.
like what?
See, the thing is, you can keep it updated and just go back and revise it when we've changed something.
That's true, I guess.
That's all.
I guess we could. Yeah.
Now VAR has to.
I mean,
work
like, I
on
guess, like,
the
the idea is, I didn't want people to start building stuff off that pitch, and then the next week we're like, actually, we changed all of that.
So, like,
You know
they
what
have
I'm
You
to
mean
do
like
now
the
anyway.
like they have been doing?
That is fair. That is
It's
fair. That's what it ended up
unfortunate.
being.
Really change
It's what it
anything.
ended up being. You're right. But, like, at the
So-
time, that's what I was afraid of happening, and then, you know, it ended up happening anyways. So.
Ideas change and things shift around. It's just part of the game.
way
yo.
of life.
I'm quite happy with how things have been developing.
Meso?
Yes.
You said, after that, I think we'll be done. And I swear I heard off in the distance Fwef going, really? But then he
Psych!
said, with year
Done with
one.
year one, yeah. She's like, oh, no.
And then our live studio audience member, Frodo Suna, said, that feeling when TTV has to do the annoying disclaimers because people don't pay attention. Welcome to my life.
Yep. If you ever make YouTube videos, you'll understand.
You gotta do them.
Yep.
That's how it goes.
Disclaimers
Have
are
to.
awful.
So yeah, with the BIONICLE G3 this week. Last week we did a pretty comprehensive video on the Rahkshi, figuring out their personalities. We opened the floor for discussion on what we presented and some of the more controversial things discussed. Specifically, Cthulhu's backstory, or Gurok, whatever her Rahkshi name is. Majority name, and
Wait, we're making
Rocky.
Gurok a girl?
I don't know if she's gonna be a girl or not. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends on which one we go with.
Pretty
'cause
much.
some of them,
Doesn't really matter.
there have been quite a few varied backstories for Gurok, and some of them have been
Less than
ranging from her being like super like hyper religious, like to the point of hating people, to like just kind of being nihilistic.
Yeah. So the main sources last week, I was pretty content with Panrak's backstory of being like a scavenger, this dude in the desert who needs to he joins up with the cult purely out of self-preservation. I was not all that sold on the pitch for Gurok, which basically was like, she wants to remain isolated at any cost, and she has the power of gravity because she likes to keep stuff close to her and other stuff kept away, and I'm like, maybe we should retweak that a little bit. And I'm not sure if we've gotten enough feedback on those particular elements or not, to be honest.
We've gotten... actually, I'd say it's quite the opposite. I feel like we've gotten quite a bit of feedback. My problem is that most of the responses to that have been like very long-winded pitches with like pages of stuff to read, and it's been hard to keep up with some of them.
Yeah.
So I know for a fact that I have not read some of the pitches in response to that.
Well, props to you guys for making them.
Should we have a consolidated topic to post your like Rahkshi things specifically?
Perhaps.
Because I feel like sometimes
'cause
they're all over the place. Sometimes they're in the official
Yeah.
canon topic. Sometimes they're in a different topic someone else made.
Sometimes, yeah, it's hard because sometimes, well, I don't actually know if we should do a consolidated topic, because it is hard, because sometimes like there are so many topics that are posted that it's hard to keep track of some, and like there'll be ones that I'll click on and see and realize, oh, that's a lot of reading. Okay, I'll have to come back to that in a second, and then I'll forget to come back to it, and because I clicked on it, it's been highlighted as though I've read it, so I can't find it again. So it's easy to lose them. But with that said, if we put them all in one topic, I feel like it's going to be even easier to lose them, because they're just going to be hidden within like the plethora of
People
posts
debating back and forth.
replies.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. I think at least we should like make that pretty clear, I guess, about which ones are Rahkshi and which ones. Some of them have Rahkshi in the title. Others have like names like Gurok, or or year 2 ideas or year 1 ideas,
Definitely.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, we might need to add some more like tags to the rules so that people know what to put, like as the first word, for instance.
Sure, I'll see if I can
Someone
get that
here,
going.
we did
Could
see
we
a
open
comment.
actually?
Go on.
Could we open up a the solution plugin for the Brickonicle? We can mark the ones that we've read as like solved.
Okay, the ones that are like red or canon or
Yeah.
the only
Interesting.
issue is, here's what I'm thinking. The only issue is that we can only mark one thing. So we have to decide now, do we want that to mean we've read it, or do we want that to mean it's canon?
I wanted to mean we've Twittered.
What?
Twittered
You
it?
said we've read it. and I'm like, we Twittered, and then it's like
Oh
we
my
Facebook.
God.
Oh, come
on
on.
Tumblr.
Was it worth it?
I thought you. I honestly thought you had a brain aneurysm. Right
Yeah,
there.
like, yeah.
It must have been
concerned for you.
We'll Twitter, Feast, book.
I mean, I don't think we need the solution plugin for this. We can just like it to acknowledge that X, Y, or Z individual member has read it.
Well,
But it's
just
hard-
because I read it and liked it doesn't mean I'm going to remember every detail of it or think that it's going to be canonized and everything.
I suppose.
I don't know. It's a solution we might think about a bit more.
I
Give
will
us
look
TLDRs.
into it. What
Yeah,
I
TLDRs are really helpful. Actually, because the longer the pitch is, the more difficult it is to get to the point of what you're trying to pitch. So, like, a TLDR actually is really helpful because it'll give us the gist of what your ideas are and what you're going for. And then, if we like the way that sounds, we can go in and actually read your details and everything that you have to present.
That's how some movies are made. You make a 10-second pitch, and then
There's an
you're
elevator
set from
pitch,
there.
and then there's a 6-minute pitch.
Yep.
And then sometimes you can do a 12-minute pitch, but usually doesn't happen.
In the comments of 253, there's a dude aptly named Dude Man, which got into a discussion with Ultimate Mustache X, the author of the Rahkshi pitch, about Gurok and Penrak. Basically saying that gravity would only really work for Gurok if the main enemy was Liwa, because it would, like, tie down versus free flying, which makes sense, and I happen to agree 100%. Dude Man argues for keeping either disintegration or fragmentation, rework it, and give that to Gurok, perhaps combine the two or rename it, whatever, because he does like the idea of Gurok wanting to remain separate and isolated from the rest of the island, and he mentions this can still be represented through fragmentation or disintegration, and they actually did pass over this quickly on the podcast. It could represent his desire to break off from the rest of the island. Plus, I'd argue that the destructive, explosive properties of the element are a better contrast to the soothing, flowing qualities of water than gravities are. Which I am totally for.
Off the top of my head, I'm thinking about fragmentation. We can use that, like, we can kind of redefine it the same way we defined Earth. Like, maybe it's not explosions, but it could be, like how Loki's scepter made all the Avengers fight in the first Avengers movie.
Agreed,
how
but
that,
that's
like,
kind
was a
of
thing?
what we're going with Penrak. Psionics and mind manipulation.
Panoramic.
Which seems awfully strange.
For a desert kind of dude, it makes sense. Like, that was the whole point of the thing.
Does
Like,
it?
Yeah,
in
she's
the
a merchant.
context of the pitch.
Okay, I can see that.
I need to go find the pitch again, but the context was that he's always in the desert having to make deals with people to stay alive. He's really into mind games and stuff, and he has to, like, always be thinking one step ahead. And having psionics, having mental manipulation would allow him to keep doing that easier. I got the pitch coming up right now. Here it is. He's a nomadic merchant. This lifestyle relies on quick words and deception, and Pokes is quite skilled at his craft, but the desert is a cruel landscape, and he's struggled to stay alive in such a harsh environment. Upon hearing about the Brotherhood, he decides to join them. This would remove the biggest obstacle in his life, now that he doesn't have to go out of his way just to survive each day. Once transformed, he gains the power of psionics to use the manipulation and mind games he's so fond of. And he says stone, preservation, endurance, psionics, manipulation, vulnerability. Up against one another.
I guess within context, it makes sense. It just
It did seem odd off the top of my head as well.
It still sounds pretty weird.
Yeah, it's not a power I would typically associate, but I think it could work in this context.
I don't know. It's a little bit difficult because the whole concept behind fragmentation and disintegration, they're similar in that sense. They're just different ways of going about the same goal.
Totally.
Breaking it.
Does Gurok have disintegration in G1?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Gurok
then
is
wonderful.
disintegration.
Whether we call it psionics or fragmentation, like kind of like John was saying, make it look Loki's scepter, Pokes can keep fragmentation no matter what we call it, and he can do mental stuff. And like Elder said last week, break the fate or
Did you
whatever.
just say Pokes?
Yeah, so I'd like to follow that up, actually.
And then Gurok can have disintegration. But what's up?
The whole fragmentation is the direct opposition of faith.
Don't do this.
Well, no. I'm not going to try and defend it. I just wanted to explain that the whole idea in Generation 1 was they had the Matoran principles, and then they had the opposition to those principles. But the problem ended up becoming they made the opposition principles physical powers.
True.
Fear was a power, poison was a power, fragmentation, disintegration,
Because they
so on and
wanted
so
to have
forth.
like a physical threat.
Exactly. They wanted to have a physical manifestation. So when I said that makes sense to me, I'm not actually talking about Panrock comes in, blows up a church, and it's like, oh no, the Lematoran are gonna die now. So
I get it.
that's it. That's all.
Gotcha. So like I'm fine with that. We can do like mental fragmentation, mind games, trickery, psionics with pokes. Keep that the same. Disintegration is kind of whatever, but I also do think it could make sense both as a physical power that could be a threat, and also if we're trying to do an analogy to Gaki's backstory.
Or doubt. We
It's
could do
getting
doubt
confusing.
as well. Faith versus doubt is more prevalent, and doubt is a little bit different than mental manipulation or something like having
You're still talking
doubting
about
yourself.
Panrock, though.
See, I could have seen the whole psionics thing, possibly, if it were more in an illusion sense, like, oh, they're in a desert. What do deserts have? A mirage. It's an illusion. But even then, it seems a
The
little
Rahkshi
strange.
of illusion.
Yeah.
See.
I don't know. I'm totally down. It seems like it could make for interesting story potential. Especially since Balhatu's an athlete, and he's like into like pleasing the crowd, which has its own deal with psychology as well, and marketing yourself, going up against somebody who's also deals with powers of the mind, could be interesting.
Yeah, I see that, but it still seems like an odd pairing, because at least in Generation 1, the idea that you have a principle and it's directly opposed to another principle, you know, that kind of sort of worked. But in this, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to oppose principles, or are we trying to oppose elements?
I think
Character
we're trying to
traits.
oppose character traits. Yeah.
Yes. Per his pitch, like fire, assertiveness, courage, fear, passiveness, and cowardice. Ice, cold and calm, anger, hot and brazen,
Okay.
etc.
And
Hot and raisin.
Earth, abundance, growth, hunger, inadequacy, decay, etc.
Okay. So in that respect, then, wouldn't we want to just kind of, instead of keeping it tied to color v color, are we going to try and mix it up a bit?
Unnecessary.
'Cause it sounds like that
far, 4 out of 4 work for color matching.
Well, per the pitch, what was it? Anger was like rage and heat.
It was.
And he's
I gotta
talking
find
more
those
in context with
mustaches.
tempers, rather than actual heat. Obviously.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
So I guess okay. That actually leads really well into the whole Kopaka Vitahu dispute.
Exactly. And then, really, that's like it's really just Pokes and Gaki that are
So-
tricky.
Okay, so all the others, it's color v color, and what are their elements? They're just the standard.
I mean, the Rahkshi elements:
Yeah.
fear, anger, hunger, and venom instead of poison.
Well,
Hello.
keep in mind that these would be their powers. Technically, they also still have affinity to their elements, right?
Correct.
Because they're Matoran.
It works a little bit with that suggestion I had a while ago, anyway, because like poison still work or venom or whatever. It's still like fear. It's like it still kind of sort of works, but
Yeah.
okay. So really, the issue is disintegration versus fragmentation because they're very very similar.
Make
Yeah,
fragment.
I feel like Ultimate Mustache X has already come up with something, and I'm just trying to find
What it is,
his
yeah.
responses through like the large list of things we've had.
Fair enough. Yeah, my only thing was I like everything he did, but gravity. Gravity does not work for me.
Yeah, I remember one suggestion was repulsion. I don't know how that ties into anything other than I know if someone suggested repulsion.
This is an interesting suggestion by Scorpion Strike. Make Panrak more focused on mirages and illusions than direct mind manipulation. You've got Pohatu, who's strongly grounded in reality and honesty, and Panrak, who's conjuring up all kinds of images
That's
of things that
cool.
aren't really there.
It works
He
with
goes
the
on, but
aforementioned
that could
Desert
work.
Mirage.
And it takes away from like us having too many super smart manipulative villains that we can still do, but you need to make sure that they come in conflict with each other and they're playing against each other. And sometimes that can get
I like that
complicated.
idea a lot.
Let's do it. The Desert Mirage, and it can
All right,
still
it's
work
official.
with Mustache's pitch about being like this dude who's out to save his own life. Illusions can be used in practical ways. It just doesn't have to be that he's like always using words in the mind.
And the Mirage thing also ties
Right.
into the desert aspect
Exactly.
of
Because if he's
Motara.
still, if he's still a
Oh yeah,
here.
it's all thematic and everything. I'm down. I'm so down.
Yeah.
I think that works.
Scorpion Strike making plays.
Scorpion strikes again.
Making them plays.
Play of the game. Scorpion.
Scorpion
And then we can have
strike,
Duroc
my
be. Now, do we want
man.
her to be fragmentation or disintegration? I figured disintegration.
I'm totally done. Mainly because I had this envision of like the water like corroding away.
I don't like it.
What's wrong with disintegration?
Water corroding away?
Yeah, like
Rust?
just-
Water corrodes things.
Like
it
a-
does not corrode itself.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Hold up. Now
For
that
some
you
reason, I have this mental image of like a twisted sea creature who's like, kind of like has some armor missing. Like,
I
this
do
bones.
kind of see that, like, all right, imagine, like, her power isn't, like, when I thought of disintegration, I thought of just things turning into dust, but now, like, if she, like, you know, if she was able to grab the side of, like, a weapon, for example, and rust it, you know, or make things old and decrepit and kind of erode it that
Yeah.
way. Erosion, possibly, as opposed to just pure disintegration.
Erosion.
Yeah, corrosion is not the right
That's a
word.
better word.
It was erosion.
Got it.
Interesting.
Yeah, okay. Now that I'm seeing that,
you
makes
could
more
kinda
still
sense
call
to
it-
me. That's not bad to me at all.
Cthulhu,
You could get away
master
with
of
calling it
erosion.
disintegration, but
Eroder.
It's a rotor.
But yeah, I mean, it can tie into
I
thematic
think that's my-
eroding something. Yeah.
That's my favorite one so far. I'm not really sure how that ties into like the backstory of the character or.
Not
I
really.
mean, like,
or anything, but
essentially, like, that's what, you know, she's wanting to, let's say she's wanting to erode what the island has in terms of faith,
Nice.
in terms of, you know, unity, in terms of anything. That's,
Mainly Unity, because she
Vaporize
wants
it.
people to remain isolated. I still like that backstory. I
and
wanna give
unity
up
is,
that
yeah, well, I mean,
backstory.
it will, I mean, it's a symbolic thing, too, because we know all the treaties between the cities and everything, all the villages, they're going to erode in year 2, and they're going to have this,
foreshadowing.
this entire thing going back and forth.
Yeah.
still not
Yeah, but,
sold
like-
in the Civil War.
It's a good movie, dude. 10 out of 10.
I don't.
I bought it.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
I don't know. We're way past that.
yeah, we're
now.
way past the point where you could be sold on it.
Yeah.
It's a little too early for Civil War IMO.
I don't think so.
I don't think
Year
so at all.
2.
I don't know, man. We
Yeah.
already got Iron Man and Captain America, and we got Spider-Man
already made
back.
that
You know,
joke.
we can actually.
Ultimate Mustache's traits.
I mean-
He says water is fluidity and amorphous. So when you said gravity,
Morpheus.
it was meant to be stability and structured. Erosion does not fit that bill.
Eroder.
Invi already made
But
that joke.
regression.
Because it, like, essentially we're starting the series off on a point where everybody is already at a high political climate and it's being put on pause for the Toa story. So like you already have it set up and ready to go. It's
I
just
guess
what's
we're
going to
talking
kick it
about the
off.
Civil War.
Right.
Yeah. It's
You
like,
kind of interrupted him, so.
Yeah, you kind of stop like in the middle of the Civil War discussion.
Yeah.
pardon me for keeping on track.
It's fine. We can probably discuss the Civil War at another point.
Well, I mean, we're gonna do it. I don't know if we're gonna figure out a whole new thing for year 2 at this point.
Yeah, we're not.
We're
The
building.
Civil War is pretty much.
Yeah,
set
it's pretty
in
much
stone.
it's set in stone essentially.
Like nearly every single thing we've set up for year 1 has started like building up towards that.
Right.
If we were to do something else, I don't know. We would have to go back and like.
No, the
reverse
ice
a
people are
lot
like,
of our
oh
year
well,
one
the
stuff.
Fire Tribe killed their king, but it's okay now. Let's just relax.
There's
Yeah, I
another
know.
Bo
Nothing's
Rock,
gonna
dude.
really happen.
We just
Yeah,
swap it
so
out with the
I-
Bo Rock. Clean it
I
all.
saw a suggestion for the Borak. The Borak don't really fit in this premise,
Not
similar to how they wouldn't have fit
Yeah,
in
nah.
G2.
This is
Because
how
the
you
entire-
force things into a story, man.
The
You just
entire
gotta let it flow.
I did like his concept in general, not as enemies, but as exosuits. The Borak.
Do you wanna,
they call like exosuits used for industrial purposes in the island.
Exosuits used by the Brotherhood
No,
call
sorry.
White
and the Sons of Makuta.
No, in this pitch I saw, the Borak aren't even like villains. They're literally just tools. They're like the boxer,
Oh,
except
they're
they're
like-
called Borak.
They're
Just call
literally
them boxers.
Okay,
The
I see.
Borak
Then
are advanced
why not just call
exosuits.
them boxers?
Yeah, I don't know why.
6 different types. But yeah, I don't know why either.
Because they don't box, dude.
Yeah. He does
Well, you
have
can
a
just-
boxer variant.
Is it the
combat
Onu
variant.
version?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Go on.
So there was a fairly not old pitch, but like it was one that we kind of skipped over last week that was presented. I don't know if we wanted to talk about this at all or not. It's one by Ragdoll. This is going to tie into a little bit about
Ragdoll.
Ragdoll. This is going to tie into a
My
little bit
man.
about how we actually really need a story Bible, because like I've already forgotten like the exact circumstances in which the Matoran change into the Rahkshi. But essentially Ragdoll's pitch is of the mask that the Rahkshi wear, which he calls the Mask of Monsters. It's essentially like a taboo mask. It's like a mask with powers that you're not supposed to use, or like are considered taboo with the society or whatever. And they have got like a special connection to the Mask of Control. I'm trying to see here. Let me. I forget exactly how it works, but I believe it
Essentially,
has
it's
something to do
like
with their transformation.
Wearing the Mask of Monsters essentially made you Hulk out.
G2
But
Mask of Control, basically.
right, but like the idea
Yeah.
here is that like these masks that the Rahkshi have enable them to like communicate and connect with Makuta, and therefore they're able to keep their intelligence.
Man, they just ain't good
Yeah.
at being bad.
Guess not.
The Mask of Monsters.
Which I guess we never really like clarified what level of intelligence they would have as Rahkshi.
I presumed they'd have like their exact same, if not
Yeah.
greater intelligence.
I always presume that as well.
Because like I do not want them to be dumb. Brutes.
Well, they probably
Yeah, definitely not.
yeah. They shouldn't be the same as the G1 Rahkshi in that case, because the G1 Rahkshi were essentially mindless.
yeah,
Right.
I mean, they had a goal in mind. They were controlled.
exactly.
But-
They weren't
But no, I mean, like,
sentient.
part of the thing that we wanted to do going forward, we wanted to give the Rahkshi individual characters. We did not want to have the 6 generic monsters. You
Yep,
know,
every
just
villain
go
in our
and-
G3 must be. Well, every main villain must be and have a character. I'm not opposed to horde
Yeah,
enemies
bit of a double-edged
when they're
sword
used
there.
sparingly.
I'm not opposed to horde enemies as long as like they're not like in terms of the Rahi or something. We have Rahi, sure, okay.
Exactly,
They
Rahi
can
are
be
fine.
whatever.
Yeah.
But I really don't want to have the humanoid, but they're monsters and there's a ton of them.
Skull Village,
Yeah.
beasts.
The thing with this
Oh,
pitch
yeah.
was that the reason the masks were taboo to begin with is because you hulked out when you put them on. Like, you'd put them on, and they'd turn you into these Rahi-like monsters.
Okay.
But because of the Rahkshi's connection to Makuta and the Mask of Control, that allows them to remain conscious while using the Mask of Monsters. So essentially what it is you're putting on the mask, it turns you into the Rahkshi, and you retain your whatever, your mind, essentially.
That's cool.
It is cool. Really, the main idea here, the main concept I feel that this mask is introducing is the idea that the Rahkshi can go in and out of their Rahkshi forms, which I'm not sure if we're in favor of, and I don't think we are.
I'm not.
Nah.
They need to permanently suffer for their actions,
Yeah.
and that needs to be 100% a change they need to accept.
I feel like what we were talking about last
I'm
week
too
with,
on board with what we already established.
with
for
Vorak
Rahkshi.
last week. We were like, he finally gets his wish granted. It's just what he always wanted, except not really. And it's like, that's interesting. If cliche, it's interesting
I
character
think
growth to go through.
It
And I
is-
think having the ability to swap in and out would diminish it.
Plus, where would the Mask of Monsters even come from?
Well, we haven't really talked about masks and where they come from in general.
I feel like
or even
masks
powers,
are,
for that matter.
I like
Yeah.
this. I like everything about this pitch except for the transformation, and I feel like we can still use this pitch. Just take out the transformation, because the mask, like Umarak, wasn't able to take off the Mask of Control in G2 and just return to his hunter form. You know, he was still transformed. It can
So
either be-
you're saying keep the concept of the mask being taboo and turning you into a beast, but you're not able to take it off.
Correct.
Essentially. Okay.
I like
Like
this
it's a
pitch
permanent
because it
change.
keeps it focused on masks, which you're right, we have not really delved into at all. And masks are a Bionicle staple to the core, and having that
Oh,
keep
they're
focused.
the core. Get out of here,
they're one of the
world
cores.
building. No,
They're one of the cores.
no, I know. I
There's a
agree.
lot of cores.
There are a lot of
It's
cores.
it's
They're
like
one
an
of the
AMD
pillars.
processor. There's
It
like
is.
Pillars of
several-
Bionicle.
The pillars, there you go, that's a better word. So, having that focus appeals to me, and also it does make sense because Makuta is still a mask maker. That was one of the things I actually kind of liked about G2 that they never really went anywhere with. We were saying, like, Makuta could just make masks for any purpose he ever wanted. Like, as a villain, he could just make these ridiculously contrived masks, like the golden mask of the Skull Spiders, that lets him control the Skull Spider army. He has that power. And that's funny to me. It opens up for interesting stuff.
Actually, now I'm thinking about it, it's kind of an oversight that we haven't talked about masks at all
Yeah.
yet. Because I'm not actually sure. I noticed like some people are saying in the live studio audience that they're out of the loop with the mask and what their scope is, and to be
We are
honest,
too.
I don't actually
Yeah,
know yet.
that's the same thing. Honestly, I
We should delve into that. I think the one thing that we could all agree on is that we want to avoid long, prolonged plot lines where the Toa have to look for golden versions of masks.
yeah.
You're only saying that
Definitely.
because G2 buried it in the dirt.
No, mostly.
Whoa.
But the only reason I felt bad about it in G2 is because it was done so many times in G1. Like,
See,
I'm just sick of it.
the place where G2 went wrong is because the goal was only to get one mask per Toa twice. Because they had the golden masks in Generation 1... in 2014. 15. Yep, 15.
And
Then they had to get new golden masks in 2016, which they could have just gone and gotten first in 2015. With Generation 1, they started out not with the expressed goal of getting a golden mask, but just getting more masks to occur more power, and it inevitably ended up allowing them to get golden masks.
That is
Which
true.
is still
It's
the same problem.
totally
though.
contrived, but
It's the
I
same
do
problem.
like how G1 did it better.
I don't actually think it's a different problem. They're both problems, but I think they're different problems. G1 it was a problem because the mask had no it didn't mean anything. You went out, you collected all the masks, you gathered them, you got them back, and cool. You would think those are your big MacGuffin things, but then like year 2 comes around and you're doing the exact same thing. So what was even the point? With G1, it's just a contrivance problem. It's just like, oh, okay, so we collected all the masks and now we get a special golden mask that lets us use all the powers. Okay, cool.
That's pretty
like,
OP.
It's important and it's good, but it's contrived.
No, G2
I-
and G2 it let them use their elemental powers, wasn't that part of the thing?
Yeah, it let
wasn't
them
it the
increase
mask
them.
of fire? Or
It
like
increased them.
That's
Yeah.
the problem.
I am.
It
here's
was
my
always
thing.
really vague.
I'm fine with either way or a creative third option, so long as it is not the focal point of our story, which it doesn't need to be. We have other plots planned out. My issue with when G2 did it is it took up like the entire first half of the year them looking
Right.
for their masks, and it was so by the numbers. There was no there was no.
I don't.
Yeah.
We don't have time.
It's a Lego staple is looking for the MacGuffins.
They need collectibles, and in the set, I can totally imagine like that, like the Toa minifigures have to face off against like the Rahkshi, but like there's a golden mask on a pedestal they gotta get or whatever, or they gotta fight a Rahi Guardian, and like there's a golden mask on a pedestal. Like it makes perfect sense from a set design perspective, and I'm cool with that being a part of the story, just not the story.
Yeah,
I mean, part of it is we don't have enough time right now. Right now, in year
comic
one,
or an online app game could handle the
an
mask
app
hunting.
game maybe. I'm thinking of like if we're thinking about episodes, right? We have one
have
episode
no time
devoted
in
to
the
a
TV show
Toa,
for
one
a
episode
mask
devoted
hunt.
to a Rahkshi. Yeah, we have no time for that.
Yeah.
No time in the show.
Same. I see the value in the Generation 1 mask hunt because when I was a
'Cause you're
kid
G1er.
growing up with that,
This is because you're a G1er and everything G1 did was perfect.
thank you, Brandon. No, because when I grew up, I loved the idea of creating a scenario where X, Y, or Z Toa had to find their mask. Because one of the great things 2001 did is it did not explain where the Toa got each and every individual mask. It showed us some, it showed us some scenarios, but a lot of them, the vast majority, were left open to the consumer's imagination. I see the value in that. Obviously, it's a little bit different because we're doing things in system, and we have to have actual play themes, play sets, but I guess that's where I'll leave that. I see that value.
I mean, I agree.
Someone
It's important
someone
for
did
collectible.
mention because I can't see who it is because of the nickname thing that they do every week. But
Just click on their name.
click on
it
the
still
name.
shows you their username.
oh yeah, there we go. Krazik said, "Aren't the collectibles this year the Mask of Timepieces?"
Yes, they
Yes.
Which is
Yes.
yeah.
This is also
they
why I am not in favor of the Toa having to find their weapons. Because that's another MacGuffin hunt, or another tool hunt, along with the already mask timepiece hunt.
I am not in favor of them going out searching for the weapons, but the concept, the idea of them getting like preliminary weapons that transform into their actual Toa weapons when they like reach power or they power up is fine. I thought that was an okay idea.
Yeah, I thought that was
That's
cool.
fine. Yeah,
I'm
more
a
MacGuffin.
little more in favor of the the Takanuva method, where he had the Koli stick in his hand, and as he transformed, it transformed with him.
That's what he's
Kind
getting
of
at.
I mean, that's pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, he was
So
saying.
they would, in that instance, they'd have their weapons kind of before they transformed, and that they transformed
Right.
with them.
They would, I mean, that's the idea, is that their Toa tools are just their tools that transformed with them.
Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's good. Because I know we had at some point earlier wanted them to look for them.
Yeah, no, I'm not in favor with that. Okay. But with that said, like you can still, I think like you can still give them, like, say like their true Toa weapons are not what's unlocked right away.
Yeah.
That way you can have some like progression as the
I
years
think
go on.
that was the idea versus that they look for the advanced weapons.
No, we don't need to look for anything. Not looking for anything. It's just their Toa tools. So they transform, right, from Matoran into Toa, and their tools transform with them into like preliminary Toa tools. Year 2 comes around, they get their upgrade, their weapons also get an upgrade. Year 3 comes around, they get an upgrade, their weapons also get an upgrade.
They kind of go like
By year
Super
3,
Saiyan, essentially.
Yeah, by year 3, their weapons are what are considered the true weapons, so the weapons that the past Toa wielded.
But how do they upgrade?
It's
That's
all
story
part of the
points.
upgrade. We haven't gotten to the upgrade parts yet.
Yeah.
TBD.
Because I feel like the way that they upgrade might matter.
It will,
might.
for sure. We haven't gotten there yet because we haven't really bridged into. We're still talking about year 1. We haven't gotten into year 2.
Right.
But
Bad
yes,
enough.
you are correct. It might matter.
Yeah.
2 comments. Mononoke 606. What if the mask hunt isn't the focus? What if it's like video game loot and they just find them around as they go on their actual quest?
Well, here's the
What's
thing.
the point?
I like that
Here's the
kind of
thing.
because it opens up the side stories. Like you can do like a chapter book about like some of their side quests, but in terms of like actual contrivancy, that's
We can't try to place what the relevancy of mask hunting is to our story until we determine what a mask is to the world.
yep.
We have to figure out
Do
what
masks have
the
powers?
masks
Right.
do,
Right.
what powers they have, and what their point is.
And that kind of ties into the second comment, but you can go first if you'd like.
I mean, what is the second comment? Sure, go ahead.
He says, I think we should skip the mask cutting aspect entirely. This is from Lahari. The masks the powerless Matoran had, along with all of the other villages in the island, I think is what he's saying, already have powers. They just couldn't use them because they were unable to tap into those powers as well as the elemental abilities they'd get. So becoming the Toa unlocks their mask powers, just like it unlocks their elements. Perhaps not all at once. Currently, like with the weapons. Perhaps
Okay, well,
gradually.
let's start with this. Do we want the Toa to have mask powers? We never really
Yeah,
talked
that's
about
the
this.
thing.
It's
Mask powers.
intrinsic.
I actually don't think we should.
It was intrinsic in G2.
And it failed. It was awful, and people hated it.
Yeah, sure, but
Yeah.
people didn't really hate. Did they hate
I mean,
particularly
it
that
failed
aspect
in
of it?
G2. It wasn't intrinsic in G2 because they were so vague about it for pretty much the entirety of the first year, and B, they were redundant. That's why it
Yeah,
failed.
to be fair, in G2 they did have mask powers. There were mask powers that had different powers like speed and strength.
Right, it just
We
didn't use them.
Didn't get those.
The
yeah.
Toa didn't have them, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean that's what I'm
Mask-
saying. They weren't intrinsic to the Toa in G2, but yeah. All right.
Mask
so-
hunting. Yeah,
I think we're
that's a
all pretty
fair-
much on the same page that we're not going to be doing mask hunting.
Mask hunting doesn't work, but masks as a concept.
mask powers,
are
right?
what Bionicle was built
it is
off of.
It is a very
My thing is, I
concept.
feel like mask powers start to take away from
The Toa.
what makes. Yeah, well, it starts to take away from what makes the Toa special. It also starts to take away from what makes elemental abilities special. Because, like, we have a lot of backstories here where our Toa characters are characters in the sense that they're at a worser lot in life because they don't have affinity to their elemental gods like the rest of the Matoran do. And the solution of, like, okay, when they become Toa, it unlocks their elemental abilities and their mask powers is just, I don't know, it feels a little little strange. It's just in a world where like all the rules are established on what their elements are and what their elemental abilities are. Getting a power that makes you run really, really fast seems kind of out of place.
Right. And I mean, like, the thing with the powers in G1 too is that we got power creep over time. Initially, they could shield you, they made you a little stronger, they made you faster, and then it was like, oh, you can vibrate through, molecules and the walls, and also you can teleport to and you can control minds and go to different dimensions, and it became this huge thing where like there's crazy power sets given to these masks. There's certain masks, I don't know why you would wear this mask over this. Why would you have the mask of shielding where you can have the mask of intangibility, which is a superpower, essentially?
At that point, it becomes a matter of, well, you can still have mask powers, you just have to limit what they do. For instance, I can say, let's have mask powers for just the Toa, but limit them only to physical augmentation. So the speed, the strength, endurance, stuff like that, you still have that, just not like dimensional gates opening. I'm actually in favor of physical augmentation mask powers for the sole reason that we have Matoran with acute elemental abilities. Because the Toa are supposed to not only have this great massive power, but think about the idea of a Matoran becoming a Toa and not only having greater control over the elements, but some other fantastical power, like that Toa was as fast as lightning, something along those lines.
I don't see how that really adds anything to that, to be honest. The elemental powers are... Yeah, I know, but the elemental powers are what's supposed to be the thing, right? They're gifted by the elemental gods to have this power beyond their peers, even though they've grown up with having none. All right, so that makes sense. I don't see what the added superpower adds to that. That's just unrelated.
It just kind of takes away from the actual like powers that make them special. Like for instance, in the live studio audience, Waj asked about the Mask of Timepieces. Like those do grant physical powers and physical attributes to the characters when they wield them or use them. But like that's exactly the case. I feel like that's what makes the Mask of Time special in this scenario, is that like there are these affinitive like abilities here, and the mask is it's not just a normal mask. It's a great mask with lots of powers intrinsic to it. So it's like if we grant any mask with a power set, then it seems to take away from what makes the actual important mask and important abilities special.
It didn't in G1.
I mean, it kind of did.
The Vahi was on a tier above pretty much anything else, and even took the initial 3 years.
Right, but you're looking at the one mask, but like all the powers, did pretty like nothing was special. They all the masks did something. They all had some kind of crazy ability. Some even usurped the abilities that the Toa had intrinsically to them.
In 2008, Hyuki was a Toa Stone, also had the Mask of Gravity, which gave him all the powers of gravity.
Hold on, what year did you just say?
He misspoke,
Sure, okay, whatever.
If you're gonna say, be right. That's why this leg debate's
you know
gone
what
on so
point he's
long.
making. You're focusing on the wrong part.
I don't feel like Gravity was any more OP than anything in the first...
You don't?
You really don't?
You don't think it was OP?
The powers of a Toa Gravity.
Story.
He used it quite a lot of times against the Baraki that like it was seemingly pretty OP.
And the Mari still almost lost in the end.
I'm saying that's just bad writing then. He didn't utilize it the way he should have.
Oh my gosh.
I actually agree. If you have the power of gravity and you're able to just like take out everybody and you still have a chance of losing.
Once again, you say it's bad writing, I say it's bad writing if we make it so here. You can say that about anything. We can write mask powers.
Well, no, I'm saying that
we can write in good mask powers that don't break the universe.
You're right, but here's what you're saying. You're using that excuse. Well, it turned out badly for them, therefore it should turn out badly for them here.
Use that excuse all the time in the when we were saying like we don't have to make it so we can do better. It's like
no, I know.
Say that all
listen. Here's your point though. Your point was it doesn't matter because Hyuki didn't use it well in G1, therefore. It's not going to matter if we use it here. But the point I'm saying is that if we write it well, they will use the mask powers well.
My point
and therefore,
that you're trying to invalidate by, like, we're talking about specific things like gravity or, like, overpowered masks or whatever. Masks are important to Bionicle. Mask powers are, I would say, just as important as elemental powers. And if we take them out, that will be a mistake, both in terms of the franchise and in terms of reception to our pitch.
Yeah,
People
not
will
only
be
that,
irate.
The issue with gravity, to point in that, he didn't misuse the mask. There's a lot more circumstance to what actually ended up happening that you're glossing over because you just don't know
Did anyone
it.
say he misused the mask?
He said he did not use it properly. There's a little more to that.
No, it's a difference between
than he
misuse.
did.
Yeah, that wasn't. The idea is that like the potential that the mask had was not always used in the story. There wasn't a misuse of it.
I don't think that's true either. Again, there's a lot more circumstance than just
The
He
mask.
couldn't control it, right?
say what.
He couldn't control it. That was the point, right?
No,
in
he
the
could
story.
control it fine. It's just it has a limited sphere of effect. It only has an amount that you can use it for. And this was a year where the leaders had armies of sea creatures.
Could have sworn there was a character that had like a mask power that they couldn't fully control. That's why they didn't use it. Maybe it was
There
Kong
might have
or
been.
something.
No, it was like wasn't it
Matsuo
Gaki?
could bring back the dead.
Didn't she have like a mask of like predicting the future?
I thought it was one of the
clairvoyance?
Mari. I mean, I didn't really like any of the Mari.
Oh, no. Yeah, you are right. It's Kongu. The mask is summoning. He could control it in the sense he could activate it. He just really couldn't control what happened after that point. It
You
wasn't a
are
mask
right.
of mind control. It just brought things there.
We can all agree, I think, that the Mari masks were quite strange.
They were
I mean,
If I had to
situational.
bring them back, I would not.
if you're
do
going to do
this.
mask powers, you have to. The actual abilities need to be very, very limited for me for that to work for me.
Right.
And that's not just limited in the sense that you give them gravity, but then you limit what they're like. You give that gravity mask rules. I think that's already too much. You're already doing too much to try and make that work.
Exactly.
I feel like if you're going to do mask powers, you got to make them very, very, for lack of a better word, uncreative. In a sense, where like they need to be simple powers.
The
Like
only
a
like
physical augmenter.
well, here's one thing.
Like physical augmenters fine, but like it depends on what physical augmenters you're talking about because like it can very quickly become too much.
Here's a
I
few.
understand that.
As long
I
as
will-
like as long as like certain masks, the masks are actually powerful. As long as they are, as long as the people using them are few and far between. If it takes some level to
Like
achieve
Toa?
usage. No, Toa is too much because we already have the elemental powers to them. I'm the only thing I'm thinking of is like possibly we could use it as an excuse to give future antagonists powers to use against the Toa that are varied.
Welcome to the new Matorn leg debate.
I mean, are Makuta and Akimu are mask makers?
Right.
We were keeping that. Do they
Wait,
just
wait,
not?
wait. Where we?
I
Were
thought
we?
I
I
thought
don't
that
recall
was a
that.
thing.
Actually, I
when we brought it
I
up.
don't remember that. They
I don't
created the
We
recall
don't
at
world.
all.
even remember now.
No.
I don't.
Yeah, they created the world. They're gods, and then the elemental gods overthrow them.
Yeah,
There's
they're
no
gods. They're not
point
mask
for-
makers.
Yeah,
I could have sworn we used the term. Fans, help me out if we ever use the term.
Well,
Chime in if
I
I'm
mean,
crazy.
doesn't
I'm-
matter.
I mean, I
think we
remember
used the
one. I remember a
term
pitch
just
that.
to
involved that. Yeah, but we've
refer to
glossed
them.
over that. We've like we redone the pitch for what Makuta and Akimu
Here's
were.
the only time. Here's the only time I ever remembered mask being brought up when it came to Akimu and Makuta, and this is from a pitch that a fan wrote out that I remember reading to everybody. It was a
Might
neat
be where I
idea.
glossed over. Yeah.
The pitch was that Akimu, Makuta, and Karzani had a father. That father was Madanui. That identity would be completely secret for the entirety of Bionicle up until the end, if ever it was ever revealed. And the way that they got their powers, the Mask of Creation, the Mask of Control, those came about by stealing the powers of Madanui and then infusing those into the mask themselves so that they can control those powers. But they didn't have any inherent ability to control creation or control. Those are abilities that Madanui had as the greater god, and they had to infuse those powers within a mask, a physical object, to then use that power.
I mean, like
So it was sort of like a vessel that could channel that energy, essentially, because they couldn't control it themselves. That's the only time I ever
probably where
remember
I picked it
Madanui
up.
and Makuta ever being mentioned with masks.
But I mean,
creating
even
this.
if we did mention at some point, the point is right now we've gone we've done this whole pitch for who Makuna and Kimu are, and it's been so long since that. I don't think at any point we were thinking that they were mask makers at any point during that. You know, like they're gods. Why are they just sitting around making masks? They're making the island, and they get overthrown by
Because they're bored.
the elemental gods.
I mean, we'd have a few mask powers in. You tell me if this is too much. Mask of Accuracy. The Senok from G1. It can increase the accuracy of projectile weapons.
I mean, at that point,
Sure,
that's
shot.
a little confusing.
Sure. I'm trying to, like, say, is it too overpowered or not? I'm just, like, running off powers. The Arthron Mask of Sonar. It allows its user to sense the movement and positions of targets through echolocation.
Well, see,
So
at the same-
specific.
again, the Mari masks
But
are awfully...
to be fair, too, now I think about it,
situational.
the more specific it is, the better it kind of gets in terms of like what we're scaling
Power
it down
creep.
to.
That's why I'm
power
picking
creep.
these in specific.
Okay.
Well, I hate to do this to you, Meso. I feel like those are actually... well, the problem
Real
with those
happy
masks
for you,
are
and I'm
those...
gonna let you finish, but
Those are skills that you can acquire. Like, sonar,
Come
you can
back to me when
practice
you've
that. Like, if
acquired
you're blind,
echolocation.
Blind people actually can do a certain level of echolocation.
there is a guy
to be
that
fair.
teaches echolocation to the blind. And he's...
Fair enough.
Yeah, it's a thing.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, I know. It's and go ahead and look it up, please.
It is,
I don't
it is
want
a
to.
skill that can be learned. Like at a very small level.
It doesn't
not
matter.
being
It doesn't
able to
matter.
animals, but
It
keep
doesn't
going.
matter.
Yeah,
And
it
the
don't
same thing
matter.
with
Keep going.
accuracy. Like,
You know
if
what?
I,
Speed can be learned.
if I was an archer,
you
Speed
can run
can be
fast
bought.
if you train hard enough.
keeping going. Mask
if I was an archer, like, I can learn accuracy.
Got it. Sure. Mask of Stealth. It allows its
You
user
can
to
learn
become,
stealth.
become mostly transparent and
being a
silent, but they
ninja.
will still cast a shadow.
Master
Calyx.
stealth.
It used to be the Mask of Fate, but how it actually was used, it basically just reaction time. And you
Yeah,
can
it was
begin
just
to
like
see-
you were just
have
augmented.
basically
I mean,
just
that
augmented.
that kind of mask works for me.
Right.
The kind like the mask of endurance or something that gives you the ability to run a bit more. You know, like it gives you more
Yeah.
energy. The Calyx, the
That
mask
That gives
of just
you a
like
bit of a boost.
yeah, just bits of boost. That's where I can see it working. Things like that, smaller ones that don't give you like crazy abilities like invisibility.
The Ruru, Mask of Night Vision.
Sure, night vision that
Yeah,
works. You can
increased
see
visibility.
it,
You can see in the
increase
dark.
increased
Yeah,
visibility in the
sure.
dark.
I can
yeah,
learn
see,
Night Vision.
these kind of masks make a bit more
Could.
sense.
Right.
Like I was saying, physical augmenters. I think those are good. Now, the problem we're going to run into, and this is really where the debate's going to boil down, is who do these go to? I'm in favor of them going to the Toa.
Of course.
I
I
think
would
My
say
thing
like a
is,
mask of
if we're-
endurance
It
could
could-
go to
all
Tahu,
of- yeah.
because it'd be similar
My-
to shielding.
No, hold on.
Increased
My
defense.
thing is, if we're going to introduce mask powers and we're going to have like the mask have powers, why wouldn't the Matoran be able to use them?
I mean,
Because
that's a
they're
great
not Toa.
question. I was going to offer the compromise earlier. Take away the Matoran's ability. Well, yeah, no, take away the Matoran's ability to use elemental powers and allow them only to use
No.
mask powers.
No.
That's too that's too
changes-
deep rooted into the characters
Yeah,
now.
that changes the
You
entire.
can't take that away.
The whole
I would
thing is that the
say-
elemental powers are what ties
Yeah,
into the
that-
gods. You know.
That almost completely changes the plot.
I would say we stick to what G1 was doing, and it's like only the Toa can use mask powers or unlock the powers of the mask that they wear.
But why?
Is what I was saying.
Why can't? The
Yeah,
Matoran
but
use
why are there powers in those masks if the Matoran can't use them? Because I'm assuming these aren't going to be like masks that are just hidden around the island for some contrived reason. I'm assuming they're going to be like normal masks that people wear because everybody wears masks in our universe.
Wouldn't they come
Well, I would say for like the same reasons why the Toa can use Toa weapons and Matoran can't.
Can the Matoran not
Because they're
use
Toa.
Toa weapons?
I don't know. Can they not? Thought that was kind of implied.
Well, why do the Toa
Sure.
have greater elemental control?
because
Yeah.
the elemental gods gave him greater elemental
They're
powers.
literally
they're chosen
literally
protectors.
the avatars of the elemental gods.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then why can't we
Exactly.
say like?
But we don't have mask power gods.
Well, why can't we say that the mask powers are unlocked through increased elemental energy?
I mean,
Why
you
would they have powers
could-
at all? though.
You could, but that's just like...
Yeah, it just seems super
I mean, you're
controlled
adding
that
a
way.
lot of stuff to try and explain that.
So,
Right.
Not really.
The problem. Okay, then the problem in this world.
It's as simple
suddenly,
as they're more powerful than
Well, I mean,
the
I
others,
don't-
therefore they get to do this.
I don't know why the Matoran can't... If it's just
the problem
physical
they're
augmentations.
getting at, the problem
Yeah,
they're getting at is they
I am
don't.
fine. For the record, I'm fine with the Matoran using the mask powers.
Same.
I think that's fine, especially if we're going to limit the mask powers to things like small augmentations like endurance or night vision.
We could do the
These
same
are
thing with, like,
things that I am
sports,
fine
you know?
with the Matoran having.
Right, like for sports, if people have certain,
And I
some
s-
people get speed, some people get strength to do. certain
Yeah,
things.
and I
Right,
see that working within the world because that makes more sense. They could actually construct these masks for the
Okay.
Matoran to use. But
So
if
then
you're
why
going
wouldn't the Toa be able to use them at that rate?
well, the Toa would be able to use them.
Toa
would.
able to
So
use
just
masks.
have-
They're saying
if
that-
everyone
they're
can use
saying
them, then
that
the Toa
all
can
parties
use them.
can use
Right.
them. I'm fine with that, considering they're not going to be super OP powers.
Yeah.
like we.
Yeah,
like
that's
we're
what I'm.
saying.
That's what because it has to make sense in the world that we've set up. We can't have powers with ridiculous. We can't have masks with ridiculous powers that grant people like, like otherworldly amazing abilities.
They can't be
because
superpowers.
Yeah,
They
it can't
can't be
It
stuff
would,
that
that
you
wouldn't
can't
fit
do.
in the world that we've established.
And that's cool because it could be like we can have like certain masks being used more often in certain regions, just depending on the circumstances. Like for instance, you would probably more often see Tomatorn wearing the mask of endurance than say a Gamatorn because they would use it in battle or something.
Right.
You know,
There's other like mass charisma, for example. Maybe a lot of the
And it doesn't make any sense to have these masks exist only for the Toa because where did they come from?
right?
We have to suddenly come up with like a whole new backstory for that kind
No,
of thing.
see,
and, like, somehow find a way to
Artaka
connect
made
it.
them and then teleported them onto the island.
Onto the
Right,
island for the Toa to
yeah,
use.
because they knew
for-
he knew when the Toa needed
Yeah.
the new upgrades.
It starts to become really silly,
Right.
really fast, because it doesn't tie into anything else we've already established.
I always viewed
Right,
the
okay.
masks like we always used the Thor analogy, wield the mighty power of Thor. I never looked at it so much as weapons with the Toa's Mjolnir. It was their masks.
Right, but that...
I can see that.
Wait,
too.
what?
The masks are always like the Toa's big thing. We're talking about like their weapons,
staple.
like they evolve over time, they grow and they change or whatever. But if you call me like just a diehard BIONICLE fan if you want, but the weapons are whatever. The weapons are interchangeable. They're swappable. The
They are.
masks are the iconic.
Anybody can use
but
them.
no one
Anybody can
has.
use them. The masks are the iconic weapons of the Toa that people gravitate towards. If anything, should be their Mjolnir equivalent that just gets like passed down. You wield the power of blank. It's like it's the masks.
Yeah, but Tahu's not the Toa of shielding, though. His mask power doesn't make any sense for what he actually is. He's the elemental Toa of fire. Fire is his element. Fire is his power
If you want to
set.
make that we could have. I guess we can have his mask be the mask of fire. Sure, just like in G2. But see, you don't want that.
With the
And-
thing.
I mean, like that. I mean, it could. And if you want to do the Mjolnir thing, and they put on the mask, and then suddenly they're gifted the powers of Tahu, that's part of how they channel that. Then
To be honest, I'm actually kind of surprised there's so much love for mask powers, because I always just kind of thought that they were just silly, like, things that didn't really matter. Toa get different mask powers every single year. It never seemed to really be a thing that was...
it was an extra
like,
thing for you to
there was
make your
never really
OC
any
with.
continuity.
Yeah.
Mask
It was,
powers are
it was one of
bio-
those things that to me didn't make any sense just as much as introducing like a million different Toa elemental like.
The very
Really, mass
concept,
powers did not matter until like 03.
I mean,
The very
ahead.
concept of having like mask powers and having so many different masks was why mask collectability became a thing, because people wanted all the different versions of the mask.
But that's
mask
not going to be
power.
a.
Yeah, but we're not
And
collecting
that's
mask
why,
gonna be a
anymore.
factor in this.
but you're talking about I never understood why it was such a big deal. It's why mask collectability became a thing. It's why BIONICLE got so popular to start with. Was the mask kind of mask packs.
I wouldn't say that.
Back during the
I wouldn't say
heyday,
that.
back when they sold like binders and people had to like collect the masks and stuff.
No.
Like,
I mean,
Yeah, I
was
know.
the-
I
it's
actually-
intrinsically
I don't-
BIONICLE.
I mean, like, possibly the issue of that is that, like, we know that people didn't really like the mask packs over time because they stopped selling them.
Wait.
Well, see, no, I don't know about that. I agree with you.
Wrong statement.
I agree with you, Meso, in the sense that yes, that did contribute to why mask collecting was a big thing, but that mask collecting was only a thing for like 3 years, though. For the majority of BIONICLE, it really had no relevance at all.
Yeah.
But, like,
At that point, that's why I said like past 03, it's like it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it just became like one of those interchangeable things that they
it's just a
came up
gimmick.
with.
But it established the concept of powers, which was a thing throughout all Bionicle.
Right, but Mask
What I'm
Powers
getting is not that it always
the point we're getting at is that those
you,
powers were always just another thing that they just came up with on the spot just to throw something in for a gimmick for the Toa.
True, because to not do it would take away what makes Bionicle Bionicle. It's kind of like the point I'm getting at.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Masks
to me, that's
are
not it.
important. I'd sooner... Well, maybe not. Like this is probably a bold statement because like we need elemental stuff. Elemental stuff is Bionicle as well. I would sooner dial back on elemental stuff than I would dial back on mask powers.
Oh yeah, I'm still not on board with
I
Matoran having
absolutely
elemental control.
disagree. I think
Agree
the
to
elements
disagree.
are definitely
the key thing.
the pillar,
yeah.
the key to Bionicle.
Right.
See, no, I
literally
100% will
that-
disagree with you there. That's
How can you disagree? That's how everything is
Ninjago?
set.
Nexonites. Which
Okay, no. I'm not saying it's not the key to other things. It is, but it's still a key to Bionicle too. It is
sure, it's a key.
It's-
absolutely.
I mean, like
is
Ninjago and
how
Avatar can both
everything
have
is
the
set
elemental
up.
key, right? Like they're both franchises that have that. It's not
Right,
like
but that's
one of
not
them
what makes
has
Bionicle
claim.
unique. That's not what makes Bionicle.
But
a
no one
unique
said that.
concept.
No one
No,
said
that's
that.
not
No
something
one
anyone
said
said.
that it's what makes Bionicle unique. That was not the point being made. The point is that it is really important to Bionicle, and I would say more important to Bionicle than mask powers, because it's literally the foundation upon how every single thing is structured. From the islands, to the people, to the regions, to the Toa, to their skill sets. That's how it is set up. It's the
Our
color
villages are
scheme.
split up depending on their element. That's like
It's why you go out and buy Tahu instead of Gali, because he's red. He's red because he's fire. That's
Is
the
why
whole
I
point.
stressed. That's why I stressed that it's not. We obviously can't take away elements. My point is that we've doubled down on elements this gen. G3, we've given the Matoran elements, we got the elemental gods, elements. I would sooner cut back on that to how old
Agreed.
Bionicle did than I would take away from mask powers. We can't get rid of the elements, but we've doubled down and increased them like 3
Yes,
times,
but-
and the net effect of that is that we've lost mask
we're not
powers.
The point-
suggesting to get
the
rid
point-
of mask elements either, or mask
But
powers
you're
either.
saying like either
Well, see, no,
strip them
the-
completely
I'm trying-
or give them to Matoran. Is basically
The point that I'm trying to make is that I feel like, sure, you can say that mask powers are something that's unique to Bionicle and not to other things, whereas elements are not unique to Bionicle. However, the point that I'm trying to make here is that when it comes to relevancy and importance and what actually establishes the pillars of Bionicle and is more important to the line, the elements are really the foundation for how everything is laid out and set up. Mask powers are not. Really, they're just a gimmick. They're the thing. They're a reason for you to collect some toys. Not even toys. Some like collectible items that you can like glamorize your Toa with. And those mask powers are just backstory. It's just fluff for you to actually go out and get them. Are they actually important to Bionicle though? I don't really think they are. Now, I know you guys think differently, but the reason why I don't think they are is because of how important elements are in comparison to them. Mask powers, after 03, really meant nothing to the story. They were just a new thing, a new gimmick every time that the story writers, the set designers, really didn't care about. It was just another thing that they added to the description for a set, just to make it seem more special. It wasn't something that actually had any real relevance to the plot, the story, or anything that actually gave
Unless
Bionicle
it was the
actual
mask of
sustenance.
life.
Well, yeah, unless it was a legendary
Except for the Great Mask.
which we
Except
have.
for the Great Mask. Yes,
Yeah.
the legendary mask. I agree with you there.
Right.
That's where it starts to matter. The mask powers for the legendary mask.
which we have,
Right.
because
Which we
have the
still are
Mask of
keeping.
Time.
We are keeping, and they've been an integral part of their pitch for like the entirety that we've been pitching this. So, yeah.
And which is why I'm trying to say the legendary mask are important too, which is why you shouldn't make normal mask and give them super awesome powers or some giant skill set power sets that suddenly increase their viability as an action hero,
Yeah,
because that
then
takes
you
away
create
from the
levels
legendary
of
mask.
power, and then things get confusing. Like, what's more powerful than the other? What makes this less powerful than the Mask of Time?
It's all about
it's
what
just
you choose
too
to
much.
do, and you can choose not to do those masks. Like
Then we
Bionicle
won't-
G1 had a mask called Mask of Time Manipulation, and they also had a Mask of Time. And like in those instances, I will agree. I'm like, that's dumb.
Time duplication,
We can no, it's duplication. We can not do that. There's a billion other powers in the world to use. There won't be power creep if it's done right.
which is why
Yeah,
I
but
think
why-
it'd be fine.
We don't
to
even
do
know,
just
like,
we
mask
are
powers,
fine
mask
with
of
introducing
increase.
mask powers, but I don't understand why it's like a necessity to make mask powers a part of the Toa power set
Right.
and tie them intrinsically to their mask powers. I don't think the mask of shielding was ever
Toa is
something.
fine. But like, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, like Tahu's mask power didn't make sense. There was never any confusion. Nobody ever said, "But Tahu should be the Toa of shielding." People just got it.
He
and
just
also-
had
No.
that
My
power.
my point wasn't that it didn't make sense. My point was that when it comes to what defines Tahu as a character, he is the Toa of fire. Fire is what defines his character from his personality to where he is within the world.
If anything, shielding is against his character.
Shielding. I don't think it doesn't make sense in the sense that you're right. It's just a power, but it's not important to that character.
We could take shielding away, and
swap
Tahu
it
is
out
still
with any other
Tahu.
power.
Right.
It could literally be any other power, and you'd still have the same Toa.
Yeah.
I
In
mean,
fact, it's
I
been
don't
other
really
powers.
think that's an argument against mask powers, though.
It's
Well,
It's
no,
not.
that's just-
I-
that was
we're
just a
sti-
statement
we're,
that
we're
Meso
still
made.
arguing
Yeah.
for mask powers here. We want mask powers. I'm saying that I don't understand why it needs to be so. Why it's so important to attribute those mask powers to the Toa characters themselves.
I'm less for it has to be for the Toa. I'm more like, okay, if you make them physical attributes, like the line John said, it's like all Tamatoran would be more likely to wear the mask of endurance because
Ren
it
said
could help
that.
them in combat. Whoever said
Give credit.
that.
Give credit.
I
where
said
credit's due.
that.
And I'm like, that's where I start to get, and I'm like, okay, I understand you have to devalue them, and if you want to work with Matoran, great. How many masks are we realistically talking about here that could be physical augmentations? Like 5? Is everybody in like
create-
Mengai gonna
create
wear
our
the
own.
same mask? Does
No.
it look the same? Is it the same
No.
color? Is it like do they look differently but they're all endurance? How do you differentiate that mask
I
from other
would
masks?
tie their
Like a
mask
set-
powers to whatever job that they have, whatever career they're focusing on, what duty that they are tasked to perform.
So there could be a sample group of 8 different Matoran, all with unique masks, and it's a possibility that multiple could have the power of endurance.
Yes,
At that point, that just like
because the
Yeah,
mask
at
is
that
just
point,
a
what's
tool.
the point?
at that point there is no point because it's mask collectability and the appeal of masks
What?
having unique designs.
But
and
we're
power.
not.
We're not
You're
doing
you're
mask
saying
collectability,
that
though.
you're
From
saying
a
that
set
as though
perspective.
there's only one mask of shielding in
That's-
G1. There's not though.
There's only one working mask of shielding.
No, but there's just different forms of it. There's different there's
The
different looks of it.
appearance of the mask. That's the whole point. Otherwise, you get into like it's the spirit of the G2 problem. It's like all the masks in G2, all the masks had different powers, but they looked the same. In G3, all the masks have basically the same group of powers, but they look different. It's like literally the inverse, same effect.
No,
You
wait.
ruin the appeal
I
of
never
masks.
said that they look different. Whichever like that. The how is the mask of whatever.
I'm saying in G3, that's why I mentioned there's a group of 8 Matoran, none of which are wearing the same mask. That was my sample group hypothesis. Are you saying
If none of them are wearing the same mask, they all have different powers.
Okay, that's all I was asking. That's what I asked a minute ago.
There you go then.
That's fine. That's all I said.
I don't know.
All right.
I still
love
don't
you.
like it because it sounds like the Matoran and the Toa are basically the same, except, well, one of them's just
Super
stronger.
strong?
One of them's more powerful. That kind of is what the
That-
Toa are.
Is
They're
that not what they
Matoran-
were in G1?
I mean, yeah,
Matoran are
that isn't what they were in G1 because
They were
the
also
Matoran
taller in G1.
had no powers. The Matoran were short. The Matoran couldn't access mass powers. They had attributes, but the Matoran were just normal people. The Toa were
We're
superheroes.
superpowered. Yes,
Right.
which is what we're still trying to do.
still superpowered Matoran.
I
That's their
don't
origin
see
here.
how
I mean,
giving the Toa powers that the Matoran if we're giving Tahu shielding, I guess sure that makes him more superpowered, but those powers don't do anything for his character. It's just fluff.
I mean, so does his weapon.
It's just
and
extra
so does the
padding.
color of
It's
his
just
armor.
His weapon is not.
no, the color of his
because
armor,
it
the
allows
weapon,
him to
they're all
actually use
intrinsically
his
a part
powers.
of fire. That's his element. That's who he is as a character. The weapon, the
Yeah,
colors,
that's
all
how-
of that
he
ties
used-
back.
Those weapons are tools for manipulating their elements.
And
That's
shielding
a
does
mask
not.
actually
can't be.
important to the character.
The mask can be if it's the mask of fire.
I mean,
But you're against
listen,
that.
You're giving somebody. It's like if we made Kahi 6 foot and then gave him something to help him get used to that. It's just helping him get augment that. Like we give him leg braces, like because he's not used to being 6 foot. Like this, you give the Toa a mask power that physically augments them so they can better get used to that.
But they're not
Matoran-
taller in this thing.
Technically, they are.
Technically,
I don't understand. I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure I understand.
I don't see how a mask of shielding would help Tahoe
I'm
get
not
more used
arguing
to
for mask
fire.
of shielding. I'm not arguing for any of the original mask
I'm
powers.
not even
In fact,
arguing for the Toa to have masks, really. I'll take that hit, if need be.
Toa shouldn't have masks.
I'm arguing
At all.
for masks to be a thing. Masks should... I agree with the spirit of keeping them physical augments, but if there's only going to be like 5 different varieties, speed,
No, we
endurance,
can come up
strength,
with a lot more
night vision,
powers. than that.
Yeah, I mean, we can come up
They need
with
to be
different
varied
powers.
enough, and like that thing we mentioned, how like Tamatoran would be more likely to wear like the mask of endurance. That kind of takes away. The
Well, I mean, more
common it
likely
becomes,
possibly,
the
but,
less
like-
it makes sense.
I mean, like to be.
I don't remember anyone saying that, but I didn't say that.
You mentioned it was Vin or John. Whoever
It
was.
it
I
was-
said that
with
they would
Van-
probably more likely to use it because they're the militaristic region.
Which totally makes sense, assuming they're mass produced.
But not everybody is going to be military. Not everyone is going to be suited for war all the time.
Right, people would have endurance depending on what they're actually using it for. It's what they are doing. It's going to dictate what their mask is.
So the masks
Right.
are mass produced.
What? Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
that's how it was
That's
in
a whole
G1 too. Like
Yeah, there were like
and-
however many
in
Tamatoran
G1 there were
with
so
the
many.
Hao.
Yeah,
They
so many
didn't have the
Matoran powers.
powers.
Sure, but like if they did have powers though, they would still be.
I'm really
the massive shielding.
confused.
I don't get the difference here.
We're not gonna get anywhere with this. Suffice
But-
to say,
You're
I
not
just don't, I
letting
don't,
us
I
get
don't know what you
anywhere
guys
with
want
this.
or why you want it.
I
I
want
don't-
Toa to have mask powers, not Matoran. That's what I
Why?
want.
likewise, but I'm willing to compromise on that point so long as mask powers and mask collectability, not in the story, but in the physical set, keeps true. Because that is a Bionicle core aspect. I'll take the hits if it doesn't make sense for the world, but masks should still have different powers. They should be varied, they should be plentiful, they should have different abilities, and they should be a big feature in the set. And that is...
To branch off,
I am willing to give you that, but you do have to keep in mind that there's only so many molds that we can actually
Of course,
create.
yes. I'm thinking like like right now we've conceptualized like 8 different masks.
G1
12,
there is
10,
only like
12.
6 different masks.
There are
Totally
12. There are 12 in terms
12
of the
masks.
first year.
If you
'Cause
count the
there's
Taragas.
The Taragas.
Oh
the
yeah,
masks,
sure,
yeah.
sure. I forgot about the
Totally.
Yeah.
That's all. And
So that's 12 mass powers. I'll give you. We will come up with 12 new
Right.
mass powers for G3.
We'll
We'll stick with the same number of G1.
Endurance. 1 down, 11 to go.
yeah, endurance, I'll take it. Clearly this is a controversial issue.
amazing.
the mask
fans.
debate.
I just didn't
think it was going to be this much
Share-
like this hotly debated.
Share my input.
you guys have
fans.
got to be out of the loop. This is
Work.
amazing to me.
Fans.
Well, see, my thing is, I still just don't understand. Like, we can talk about that after the podcast, obviously. I still don't understand, like, the actual reason why you want it. That's my thing. Not
I want it
even
to
the mass powers.
to further differentiate Toa from Matoran and certifiably have Toa on just an
Okay, so
undeniable.
it's just a continuation of the leg debate. That makes sense.
I want it
that's why
because it
this is.
differentiates Bionicle from other things.
That's why this is so controversial.
I also, along with Meso, feel that it is intrinsic to Bionicle Toa have mass powers. I
Masks
feel
is
that
the
it's a
new
staple.
To get rid of masks would be the same as getting rid of Toa.
Yeah.
Powers.
okay, sure.
Okay.
I don't
Right.
think everything needs to be intrinsic to a character
Let's
or tied into a character.
I don't know. I don't like.
we
I don't know what's so funny about that. Like, it's not the same as the like. Eljay might. Be
I wasn't.
coming at it from that
To
perspective.
be honest, I stopped listening. I was laughing at the memes posted in the chat.
we didn't even get around to me and Eljay's
Wow.
bet that we made. We'll have to talk about that at some point.
Yeah.
Yep. Alright, so clearly this topic was controversial, but fans, I want you to leave your thoughts. If I'm crazy, If LJ's
You are.
crazy, let us
You
know.
both are.
If
Well,
masks
see, I
aren't
think that
that
you two
important.
you two want different things. I think
Maybe.
you and LJ are
We
arguing
need
different
to
things.
like go behind closed doors and discuss this.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
I think your reasonings for why you're arguing in this
Close
debate
the
is
door.
different.
if I'm crazy and if masks aren't that important to
I think you're
Bionicle,
less crazy than that, though. To be fair.
let me know.
Yeah.
I
I'm
want to
agreeing
know. Yeah, leave your thoughts in the comments. If you've got ways you can make masks work in the pitch, if you've got ideas, tell us. And if you have reasons for why they aren't that important and they might be better off being cast to the wayside, also let us know, because you guys can help break these stalemate discussions I've found in the past, and I want to hear all your thoughts on this. Secondarily, we did briefly touch up on the Rahkshi. Everyone's decently happy with erosion, but it's not final yet. Leave your thoughts on
Eroder.
Gurok and Penrak's powers of erosion and mirages, respectively. They're tweaks based off Ultimate Mustache's pitch, but they're still like in keeping with the spirit of what he was going for mostly. So I'm curious what you guys think about that.
Yeah.
And just generally, as we move forward, give us some feedback for how to go going forward. We're getting closer to the end. So thank you all for your continued support, and I'm really curious
we
to hear
done?
the comments on this one. We're done.
What?
We can.
No way.
Yeah, dude. We're,
I wanted to talk
yeah,
about
we're
more
outta
world
here.
stuff.
We're over an hour and a half,
plus.
dude. We
Man,
got
okay. We didn't even
we've
listen.
got to
There's
shut her down.
the value of
Stupid
the art.
mask. Why did you guys have to bring that stuff up? I didn't want to talk about
Why'd
that.
you have
I
to
don't-
oppose it?
I don't think I brought
Because
it.
it's dumb.
You're dumb.
Alright. Thank you all for listening. I look forward to seeing the comments on this one. As always, every week. We
Didn't
like
even get to talk
shout
about all the
out-
fan pitches, the stories, and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
Dude, I
There's
know,
right? There's
Next
a Naho
week.
pitch.
I had
Naho
stuff all
pitch.
prepared and everything. I even
now
made some
you
new
gotta
things
save
for
it
Lee
for
Koro
next
or
week.
Maybe next week we can
Welcome
get the
to the
story
G3
Bible.
podcast.
Hey, welcome to my
gonna get
world.
to it.
Every time I had concept art.
Hey, hey,
I had some
hey,
new
babe,
things for.
what do you think?
Check that one off.
Hey, who got bingo? Anyone
The
get bingo?
G3 podcast bingo
Nobody
is
played it,
absolutely
you
genius.
walnut.
I'm going to post that in the video, by the way. The G3 bingo.
How's it
great.
going?
Well,
That was a good man.
I am
No one's gonna
so
get a bingo off
Noticed
my
that on
spot.
the bingo card.
I am so angry. I feel like I waited a week for nothing.
Wait,
The
you wanna
stupid mask debate.
Wait,
Now I understand why people
let's-
hate the leg debate.
Nice.
I am really
Go
mad.
again. Let's do an extra
Shout
special
out
episode.
to our
Now
pa-
you finally understand.
Shout out
my
to our
pain.
amazing patron, Anton Kravchenko, for your continued
I
support.
like that name.
As well as everybody. That's a cool
Nah.
name. Everybody did great. Leave your thoughts. I'm really curious to hear them.
But you're literally
And
where I'm at the leg debate because I don't want to talk about it either. But I just think it's so dumb that people are arguing it. I have to be
we'll
like,
see y'all
what?
next
What's going
week.
on?
Bye. Bye,
That's
guys.
fine. You
I'm
overglorified.
Meso.
Oh my
But-
god, Meso.
I'm annoyed.
Meso. Hey, Var.
Far.
I said I'm annoyed.
Oh, okay. I'm LJ.
I'm Jonathan.
I'm Venathan.
and I'm listening in. I mean, kind of Invictus.
See y'all next week. Bye, guys.
See ya.
See you guys.
See
It's
ya.
been fun. It's been real. It's really not. You feel?
What an unfulfilling episode.
I kind of wish we did 2 of these podcasts a week now.
I'm so annoyed that you care
Oh,
so much
trust me.
about
I'm
it.
really glad we don't do 2 a week.
We weren't ready to talk about a lot of the other
Legs.
stuff anyway.
We were kind of ready.
We had a few pitches, but like,
Well,
we
Bar was
can
going
go
to
back more
pitch
in
them
the
to
story when the
us.
story Bible.
Yeah, I had my own ideas.
Yeah, it was going to be like a.
I didn't realize this was so controversial.
I mean, that's exactly the same thing with the leg debate. People had
Yeah.
like 2 wildly different perspectives on things, and then when it comes up in a podcast atmosphere, both people are shocked. Like, they're shocked that Mask is so big a deal. I'm shocked that they're not, because I remember us complaining to
shocked
death
that
about that in G2.
Well, okay. Here's the
Like-
thing. I think you have sense to what you're saying, Meso. I think there's definitely something there. The argument you're presenting about how
I think we'll get Meso on our side pretty quickly.
well, I mean, like we
Well,
can't.
we
add
already
that
like
element
we
into
kind
that.
of already like
We're compromising it.
I'm
I think
willing to
what
fold
LD's,
so long
what
as they're
LD's saying
thing.
is like, yeah, what LD's saying is completely. I think that goes against the story we're building and everything that we're wanting to give the world. But
We'll
I
get-
mean,
you're saying-
sure,
Get
maybe,
you.
maybe that is the case. I also think that what you say about, the legs is asinine. I think
right, exactly, because you want something from this
Listen,
G3
I've already
that's
put
intensely
forward
different.
my compromise here because I want to set the tone. I want them to be undeniably in a
No, you
different
just wanted
class
to be
of
like
their
that because
own.
it was like then.
Right. I mean, like I guess like
my
that's the thing.
compromise is you
What you
either give
want-
the tall mask powers because that's intrinsic to this theme, and you don't give them the Matorn, or you take away the Matorn's elemental control and you give them the mask powers.
Well, the difference is though, I feel like the one thing that I've
Screw the
learned today is that
masses.
what
Screw
you
the
want for
corners.
G3
Screw you.
is not our G3. You're against almost everything. You're not on board with almost everything. The Matoran having elemental powers, the Civil War, the
Liwa.
whole everything like that you want.
We
is
have not
completely
gotten
different
into the
from what we're
Civil War.
doing.
I'm not against the Civil War as in essence. I'm against how soon it is. I want to push that off. I don't think year 2 is enough
So you
time.
want the Civil War in year 3?
Yeah, I'm fine with the Civil War in year 3. I think that it would be better served there because it's too soon.
And fair,
That's
we
the
really,
fun.
we
I
really
think
planned out
everybody-
what year 3 would
Well,
have
but
yet.
exactly,
But
we
I'd imagine it just be
haven't gotten into
Makuda.
that yet.
Well, I mean, I don't think the Civil War is going to end in year 2. I think it might continue on into year 3. Elements of it will still going to have
It
to
needs
wrap
to get
up.
like resolved, and everybody needs to unify in time for year 3, wave 2. But I think it could
Tension
last
is
until
right,
that
right.
long.
Yeah.
It's almost like the
I mean,
Reaper
well,
threat.
Because here's the thing. Year 1 is your establishment. This is when you establish everything. You're going to be spending too much time doing that. Year 2, you start the build. You start the tension. And then it all comes to a climax.
I get it in
Year
concept,
3.
what you're saying, but
thing-
you do need to just remember, like,
Yeah.
we are starting the story in a unstable political climate. Unstable political climate.
See,
Right.
the thing, I feel like where you're considering the Civil War as this big, epic, grand final confrontation, but for me, it's just a setup for the actual confrontation where the island will have to unite against an enemy that's threatening literally everybody.
Yeah. This might
That's how
change.
it's
I'm
how
gonna
you're
pull
viewing
in bingo. This is like all the kings trying in Game of Thrones, and then the White Walkers are there, right? And so like they're all the political climate's going back and forth and doing all this stuff, but it's not one giant huge thing. The huge things need to be against the White Walkers.
Yeah, the huge thing's the White Walkers, not the actual
the
War of
important
Thrones.
thing that might sway you, LJ, look at it from this perspective, maybe. It's that I just blanked on what I was saying. I'm not even kidding you.
Very
I had a
fascinating,
train
Meso.
of thought.
Are you
and
okay?
Yeah, that totally changed
Yeah,
my
It's
perspective.
like the Avengers movies, man.
I can't get behind wanting
Don't pay
to
attention
end
to
the series where everyone is against each other. That seems like
yeah.
that's like a midway story.
That's like
I
if
remember-
Civil War was the last Avengers movie.
I don't follow.
People grow from the Civil War. Like, part of the appeal of having that in media is seeing everybody come back together. So it's
Yeah.
like, because Civil War took place in, even though it was technically phase 3, it's like technically like close to the halfway point of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Then
Right.
seeing everybody come back together for Infinity War is going to be
right.
fulfilling.
If you're going to make the Marvel comparison, it's like if you did like Civil War at the very end of the MCU, but you don't want to do that. You're doing your Avengers, Civil War, Infinity War.
Makuda is
Where
actually
everybody
where
comes
everyone
back
comes
together
together.
against the
Yeah.
real
Makuda is
big
Thanos.
enemy.
I'm not suggesting that you end year 3 with the Civil War. I'm not suggesting that it ends and
No,
everyone's
but you want to
divided.
push the Civil War to year 3 to make the Civil War the year 3 plot line.
What's the other plot line?
Makuda.
Makuda.
Doing
He
what?
gets the full power and he starts like
Yeah,
doing
he gets the
stuff.
full power. He's
But
threatening
maybe
the
like
entire
God again.
island.
Maybe it's
We
like
have
the
to
Reapers,
actually-
and like some people don't believe he's really back, and some people do, and then you have to go around and unite the villages
Right.
to fight against
Keep in
him.
mind,
and he has his
Makuda's
army and
operating
he's
in the
like-
shadows the entire time for year 1 and setting up the Civil War for year 2. Going into year 2, Makuda is still technically not like the threat for the island. The
I
island
would
is
presume
its own
Makuda only becomes an island-wide threat at the end of year 2, perhaps. is
Exactly.
just figure he
Exactly.
gets his power back. And then year 3 opens up with him making his army and beginning to like move out. It's kind of like Voldemort or
See you guys.
see it. It's either like
See you, man.
Voldemort from Harry Potter or the Reapers from Mass Effect, where people don't believe it's actually a threat, and you have to go around and like convince people and form allegiances, and then it actually starts becoming a threat, and then
Okay.
people are like,
All right,
"Oh no,
all
we
right.
got to stop fighting."
Right,
Okay.
right.
So what time during year 2 does the Civil War start?
Beginning
at the start, at the
presume.
beginning, the very beginning of year 2.
I remembered what I was saying. Here's the thing, Jay. Picture this. We're looking at it as if the Civil War is just going to happen in year 2. We're opening the story like the Civil War is about to start, and then the island gets frozen.
Right.
That I
Yeah,
think
tensions
is-
are already high in year 1.
tensions are high for everybody in year 1.
Not even
and
year 1,
the-
pre-year 1.
and then the
here's
island
story.
gets frozen, and then the Toa
Right.
do their thing. The island gets unfrozen. Whatever happens in the second half of the year, we haven't necessarily finished fleshing that out yet. We mentioned how the island gets unfrozen like halfway through the year, and then we have the final act of year 1, and then right at the end, the Civil War starts. Perhaps
Still
someone
feel
gets
that
blamed.
That's really soon.
Maybe it depends on how the story is written. I don't think it will be simply
I guess
because
it does.
anybody's born.
Because that, like, just hearing
think
it, it sounds like that's really rushed.
Well,
Maybe
it depends on-
largely work in
I don't-
execution. It's
I don't
just
think
I don't
so.
understand how it
I
could
don't
be
know.
any slower
Right.
with the way the world is set up right now.
The implicit origin of Tahu is that he's kicked out because he accidentally killed the king of the ice village. That's going to lead to a civil war. That action already is building up. They already suspect that something happened on the Fire Village side once it all comes out.
Don't get me wrong, I get that. It's just all about spending a year establishing, because these things are
Establishing
we know all this, but if, like, in an actual scenario where you have to introduce an audience to this, you need to spend that year introducing everyone.
Yeah, that's what we're doing in year one.
I know.
We're gonna have a few flashback episodes, but then we also do. I kind of see where he's going with this. We need to figure out what our other forms of storytelling are going to be. If we're going to have books, comics, or a game to communicate story details that might not be as fleshed out as they could be in the TV show. Like, are we going to have a book about Mangai versus Ihu? Because we totally could. And that could really sell the central conflict.
We could have,
more.
what we could have is a book that tells, like, the details of the world. Sure, like a world build, not a story by, like, Makuda's Guide to the Universe.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Or
We
just
could
a
have
full
that.
flashback story. Because if that is so important, then I do fear that a 22-minute flashback episode might not be.
We could do, like, we could also do flashback serials in that sense. Stuff that's set up and that's put up free online, so anyone who's interested in the story can go and read that. They're flashbacks. They don't really have to do anything of the main story at hand, but they will give some context to the Civil War, added stuff. I'm going to bring it back to Game of Thrones because that's, like, the best thing I have. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on in Game of Thrones when it comes to, like, the Valonqar prophecy, the history of Tyrion, and, like, that makes the stuff in the show much more meaningful. Yeah, I know. That's why I mean.
Here's Scorpion Strike. Is it a civil war when it's between tribes? Yes, you're totally right.
Yeah, you're right. Or
It's
they're
a
just
war.
calling it a civil war because that just makes it easy to kind of get the point.
Yeah,
Right.
it's an actual.
Yeah, it's not actually a civil war.
Well, I mean, it's on one island, and they did call the Metro Nui Civil War because even though they had different districts.
Well,
Matoran
in that
Civil War.
instance, that actually is another thing in this Civil War. Are all of the nations going to be against each other, or are some of them going to ally?
I mean, it's not like it's going to be
There
a
might be allies,
six-way against each
Yeah.
other where not a single
Exactly.
person is allied.
I presume Mangai and Ihu are at the core, and then there will be two
Yeah.
tribes each, which
It was like the Matoran Civil War.
This is
That was
why
the
I
same thing.
wanted to get into some more ideas that I had because I set up a lot of Kane government stuff that could actually play into Civil War stuff.
Dude,
That's
I want to hear
how
your stuff, man. I didn't think we should have the mask debate.
This
was
is how
like
I
something
felt
that-
after the third
Yeah, I really
week of
hated
the
the mask
elements debate or the third week of the leg debate. It has to happen, but it's when it happens that
I'm
Well,
glad
that's-
we at least reached some kind of compromise, though, because it's something that we did need to talk about.
mass powers eventually, right?
But
But I mean, part of it,
John,
part of
not-
it does tie into.
One
Go on.
second. Never mind. She went offline.
What?
I was gonna say message Fwef. Get her on TTV Talks, but she's
No, I already got her.
Or-
We're doing. She said
she's
yeah,
in.
she's in.
Wow.
I guess it's weird to me because I feel like I guess the reason I just didn't think mask powers are so important was because, like, if they were, I figured we would have talked about it before now. Because, like, we've already, like, established so much with, like, the core foundation of our worlds. I feel like if mask powers were going to be that important, it would have been brought up early on, very
That
early
is a
on.
very fair point. It's
Like,
the
it
kind
just
of
it just
thing-
feels really late in the stage to, like, start bringing out big changes like that.
I don't disagree there, despite my pronouncements that they are intrinsic to Bionicle. It does have to be said, Devil's Advocate, that we are months into this project. This is the first time that I'm actually like, masks are
Thinking about
important.
it, right?
I mean,
That's because I always presumed they would be a thing, but I never gave any thought specifically into how or why. So
the thing is, I feel that the big change here is with the Matoran and trying to give them mask powers. But I don't think that it's outlandish to believe that the Toa would have an additional hand-me-down.
I mean, it's a difference between like having an additional hand-me-down as it is just like why in the world that we're creating, why these things happen.
Here's how I see it. Hold up 1 second. I've got a perfect image to show why I don't like the mask powers.
Oh boy.
I also feel like you guys are kind of playing a little bit of a quick hand here with trying to bring these outlandish mask powers and say, oh, well, look at how awful these were. And say, well, if we did mask powers, clearly we're going to fall into the same rut. Like, I'm not suggesting Olmax or anything. I'm just saying.
Nobody disagrees
we're
that
past that,
G1
yeah.
fell
Yeah,
off a cliff in the later years.
I don't think anyone is like kind of like
Yeah, I mean,
doing
that
what you're
was
saying.
we were voicing our concerns. We went past that now to the point where
Right.
we've condensed it to a place where that's no longer a concern.
Yeah.
Everyone's on board with having the smaller powers. I don't think anyone is against that.
Yeah.
G1 was dumb.
Anyway.
We can agree.
The reason I don't like the mask powers and why I think it feels like a weird thing to bring in is that you have your character. I know I kind of touched upon it in the podcast, but like just want to reiterate a little bit more with an example. You have your character with a very clear origin, power set, and things that make that character. Personality, where they come from, what their power sets is. All these things are directly tied together and they're intrinsic to that character. They're what make that character that character. So let's take Spider-Man, for instance, right? His power is that of a spider. His origin, he's bitten by a spider. His power sets are that he has spiders, or spider powers, and that affects how he performs in combat and acts as a character.
Proportionate strength of a spider, the spider sense, and the
Right.
To be fair, spider sense.
To me, giving Tahu the Mask of Shielding, just an example, could be any other mask power, but to me, giving Tahu the Mask of Shielding is like giving Spider-Man the Spider-Mobile. It's just weird. It doesn't really make sense. It's cool. I guess like it's an extra thing that he has now. I guess it works.
By contrast,
It's just like
Now that's what I call a fiasco.
I feel the same way about the Spider-Mobile as I do about like Spider Sense or Super Strength. I feel like the only two
Strength works.
Spider-Man powers that are intrinsic to me, he can shoot webs and he can climb up walls.
And even then, the
Everything
webs
else-
aren't an intrinsic power.
Everything else is expendable. You could get rid of those and he could still be Spider-Man.
sure. You can get rid of web sense, yeah.
But I see your point about the mobile.
I get the mobile.
Yeah.
The mobile also isn't
It's dumb.
an intrinsic part of Spider-Man.
Exactly. That's the point I'm making. They got rid of it for a reason.
But mask powers for Toa are an intrinsic part
How?
of Bionicle.
How?
Because they've been there in every part of Bionicle that is they were there at the start as the core of the theme. It was built on collecting masks, and they permeated throughout every part of Bionicle up until the part that is widely decreed as either being completely awful or disrespectful to the start, which is G2. And even
Yes,
then,
but
G2
just
did have
because-
mask powers.
Also-
Just because it's been there doesn't mean
Right.
it's intrinsic. That's not
What's
a
also
good
a
reason.
core to
Like-
Bionicle
like what
under
it-
those standards, having one girl.
It's just like what AT says
It's
in the
5
chat.
guys.
Bionicle was designed around the concept of tribal masks with powers. The Elements thing was, like he's saying, was around with Robo Riders and Throwbots. Masks with powers
Sure.
was the Bionicle thing.
Right. But once again, I'm not arguing against mask powers. I'm arguing about how it's intrinsic to the Toa characters. What about mask powers and the Toa is intrinsic?
Because again, it's another divider between Toa and Matoran.
That has nothing to do with it being intrinsic. That's a different point that you're making now. What the point that you're trying to make right now
It's
is
a
that the
part of
Toa and the
being a Toa.
Matoran are two. What?
It's a part of being a Toa. Toa, elemental powers, mask powers. Because
Yeah, but the Matoran, the mask have mask powers regardless of whether you're a Toa or not.
Bingo.
Wait. The masks have mask powers regardless?
Yeah, the mask have powers.
In G1 or G2? G3.
In both.
In both.
Okay, and Matoran cannot access them in G1 because they're Matoran. They're just worker bees. But the Toa can. That's the whole idea. Now I understand. I understand in the world.
Why would they give the Matoran mask powers if they can't use them?
It's not giving the Matoran mask powers just so that the Matoran cannot use them. There's always the possibility of a Matoran becoming a Toa, is there not?
Sure. I mean, I guess, yeah, if they're given the
I'm
Toa
not
stone.
even suggesting that all the masks should have mask powers. I'm saying that the Toa should be given mask powers. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that the masks are created with the intent of Matoran having power. They're created with the intent of being a vessel for another power, which is an augment. That's what I'm saying. Because, again, my whole goal here is to make clear classes in the same way that you guys want classes between Matoran. You have, your warriors, your normal person, your elder. I want Toa to be in a class unto their own. So
Well, they already are.
I understand. Well, that's the thing. You don't want them to be. They
No, I
are
want them
in
to
the
be.
sense that they have more power, but that's
Right.
a little bit vague. It's like in G2, you give them a mask, okay? So now what? Do they now
they
more
have
power?
way more power than the Matoran do. I don't see how that's
too
like a
vague.
No, I agree with him here. You do want them to be different, but almost all of your pitches and your story changes and the things you're fighting for are to make the Toa as similar to the Matoran as they could possibly be.
And that's the thing.
right. I mean,
I
that's
want-
that's the difference between classes. They're not a different race. I think what you're wanting is Toa to be a different race. The
That's
Toa are
not
just
what
an
I'm
upper
suggesting.
class. Well, I mean, that's what the difference between a normal guy and a warrior. What you're saying, and your example for class is that the warrior is more skilled in fighting. He has more skill in that aspect. Sure. The difference between the warrior class and the Toa class is that the Toa have way more elemental powers. So I mean, I don't see why that's any different. They're still scaling in terms of class.
Because
but you're
all of
wanting
the
the Toa
other
to be-
things, that on its own wouldn't be such a big deal, but you want to make Matoran the same size as Toa. You want all
Right.
Matoran to have elemental control, and the only difference between them is a couple of markings, and you can't see them, but air quotes, Raider elemental power. That's your
Why is there air
difference?
quotes? That's the main difference. Is that the difference between the warrior and the normal person is that the warrior has better armor and a different weapon and a couple more markings.
And the
So-
warrior is more skilled, the warrior is stronger.
Right.
which is what
Exactly.
I'm
Right.
arguing for. And
So
all-
it's a class. It's a
It's a
class
full-
above the normal Matoran, and the
but the thing
Toa
is,
are
that's
also a
not-
class above.
again, that's not that's still
No,
not
Toa
enough.
should be
Greater
warriors,
powers
you
too
say,
fast.
Exactly.
like,
That's what I'm saying.
big
You don't just want it to be a different class. You want the Toa to be a different race. That's what you want. Because
I want
everything
Toa
I've
to be
said-
a greater Matoran. And what you're saying is they should just have the G2s. Well, they got better power. They got more power now.
It's like in Halo, you have human civilians, and you have Marines, and then you have Spartans.
right.
I think LJ wants the Toa to be like Spartans,
Yes.
and
Well,
we
the
want them to be
Spartans are
more
tech-
like Marines.
Spartans are much taller.
No,
than
I
normal people.
want. I would say the difference is between like
Both
a
are the same
normal-
species. It's just that the Spartans are so obviously like we disagree on how it's obvious or not, but that's the spirit of the issue.
Okay, for me, it's a difference between like a normal kid in the Avatar universe and the Avatar, right? Sure, the average kid might have some
Basically,
bending abilities.
Yeah, you guys have different
But-
fundamental thinkings as to how separate the Toa are supposed to be to the Matoran themselves. The point that LG was trying to make was that you are arguing to make the Toa as similar as possible, and he is arguing to make the Toa as different as possible within the confines of they're still within the same species.
right, and
The
I mean,
pro- but your statements of he's trying to make them different species is essentially just kind of trying to work around like it's not really the point that he's trying to make. Like he's trying to make them as different as you are trying to make them similar.
well, I guess what I'm saying necessarily is that the Toa themselves in this story in the world of concocted are enhanced Matoran. That's what they are.
Yes, but they were also enhanced Matoran before too. So that point doesn't really help your argument.
Well,
Wait.
let me think. The Toa and G1 were not enhanced Matoran.
Yes, they were.
Well, Yeah, no, they definitely. Literally, the second movie, the quote was "tall Matoran."
Yeah, no, I'm saying that like,
the only-
the Toa
that-
were
that's
made
not,
by-
not only is that not from a intelligent being, like a sapient one, that was from a Rahi.
Talvatore.
That was a translation from an animal.
With that said,
That's funny.
you're not wrong. I'm thinking about it. The Toa were different species than the Matoran. They're only the Matoran in name only. In reality,
they're completely different in build, in power set.
they're different. They're almost completely different species.
Why is a Skakdi different than the Matoran, but a Toa isn't? You know, the only difference is that a Matoran can transform into a Toa by some means, but it's exactly the same difference.
I think there's a little more to that.
The Vortex are closer to the Matoran.
What is the little more to it that you think there's a difference?
The difference between a Skakdi and a Matoran?
Yes, because I'm assuming what you're about to do is bring up some kind of like canon like reason between why they're different. Like you're going to explain away it through the use of the lore in the world, right?
I mean, I can go into their physical differences too if you want.
No, that's not.
The point is that there are almost as many physical differences between the Skakti and a Matoran as there is a Toa and a Matoran.
Okay.
They're different
Sure.
species.
Almost. I don't know about that. There are certainly a lot, but the Toa, I would say, their main difference is height and bulk. The Skak,
Right.
the
And
teeth,
elemental
the
powers
spines,
and mask
the
powers.
claws. None of that's appearance based.
Okay, all right. Maybe
Physical, like different
Okay, so, sure. All right. What about
the Vortex, for
I
example.
was gonna say Vortex.
That's
What
a
about?
that's a better
I don't even know what Sidorak's race is.
He doesn't have a name for it.
What about Brutaka?
I will say that is much more fair.
I'm
I was
not going to argue.
Yeah, the
I'm a
point-
Skakdi
The
aficionado.
point
so I
that's
was
trying to
like,
make is that species in G1 are like the Matoran are as different from the Toa as they are from another species of character. Brutaka is just as different from a Matoran as a Toa is to a Matoran. So in that universe, they are the same species in name alone. Really, they are a different species. And in the universe, in the lore, you're right. They're not. They're the same people. They're the same things.
I know. I appreciate the point AT has brought up. The caterpillars and butterflies, they're the same species. Caterpillars just metamorphosize into a butterfly. They look completely different, but they're still the same species. I also agree with him. I don't think that's really the focus here either. Whether or not G1 made it so that they were completely different, we can still have them similar. I'm just saying that right now they're too similar with these changes in mind. There's not enough to differentiate them.
Well, okay. Again, this is it's a difference innately with the story that's being told, though, because the reason why I keep bringing the different species thing is because in G1, it's about aliens coming to this world, right? And it's the same thing in J2. There's aliens and they come to this world of normal people and they do all these things, and that's not the story we're wanting to tell. We're wanting to tell the story of people who are Matoran, these people that become gods, not gods that come to Earth and solve all of their problems.
And I guess at that same time, there's an argument that can be made. Well, maybe you should be telling that story about aliens coming down to the island.
It's been done twice.
I let me finish. The argument I can see being made is that maybe you should, because at this point, it's a very personal story. The mystery is gone because you already see them. You know their origin.
Yep. I don't
because at least with the coming down,
I don't care. But
part of Bionicle's draw was a heavy atmosphere of mystery and intrigue.
You're totally right.
The mystery is being reversed, though, in the same sense that the core design of the story is being reversed. It's no longer the aliens coming down to Earth. It's Earth bringing out the aliens from.
Our pitch is a genius mix of 04 Bionicle and G2 Bionicle rolled up with a little bit of Thor Power Rangers in between. I have no interest in changing anything about it. This whole we've had the Toa thing, especially with G2. That's what's most fresh in our mind. We could do it better. We could do it better than even G1, I'd say, because G1's backstory didn't really make a whole lot of sense. But for the purpose of this G3, I value character relationships over mystery.
Well, the mystery is still there.
Right. It's not
been,
gone.
It's changed. So fair.
It's
So,
a
like,
different thing that's mysterious. It's no
even if it
longer
was
about.
gone,
It's no longer about the characters themselves that are mysterious. It's where it's the things that surround the Toa characters. It's the island itself has a lot of history that we don't know. We're stuck in the now. The characters that we are coming to know are people that have grown up in this world through legends, or have known of legends and stuff. And the legends that they're being told are legends that they didn't think were real until one day they woke up and they were the legendary heroes. The mystery is what is real, what isn't. We currently have 3 god characters, and one of them our entire race of islanders don't even know exists. There is mystery and history with the island, from the origins of the Toa to how the gods and the elemental gods relate to the Toa, that our characters don't know. Just because we know it because we wrote it doesn't mean that our characters know it,
or that our audience is going to know it, which is what
exactly.
I mean, the mystery is mystery is for the audience. The whole mysterious aspect is the thing the audience gets. It doesn't matter what the characters think. The characters are fictional. You know, that what they want, that's all fictional. We write that. Is how the audience perceives it. And right now, it's not like everything is laid out before them. There is still mystery in the lore that we're writing and the story we're writing. Now, it's not the exact same mystery. You're right. It's not the exact one that was in G1 and G2, but
why would we
that
want to
doesn't mean
tell
there's-
the same mystery?
right,
It's
exactly.
already been told.
There
what
is
I
new
was saying
mystery.
was there is new mysteries, but even if there wasn't, even if we just did not have any of this, what happened to the Toa back when? For the purpose of our story, doing something different, all this stuff with Liwa and Vizuna and Mangai versus Ihu, it's infinitely more interesting.
I understand that. I wasn't saying that was my argument.
I know.
I'm saying I can
You're
see
just that viewpoint. I get you.
all of this is completely off track in any case.
Yeah, but it's
Well, I mean,
interesting.
It's
interesting stuff.
Well, I mean, like that ties
cool.
back into the whole thing. We're going back to the mask cards. We're going to making the Torin and the Toa and how different
It all
are they.
wraps
The
up.
thing
It
is,
wraps
real
back
nicely.
into that. Yeah.
I
So
don't
if that's not your
see
argument,
it
then
being-
what is your argument then?
about the masks?
No, I mean, I just about like the masks are part of it, but it ties into this thing. You want to make the Toa completely different, and so
I don't want to make
just
them
explained.
completely different. I want to.
Sure, okay.
I want them to be different enough, because you want Lego Avatar. I don't think anyone should be under the illusion that's not what you want here. And
That is
part
the
of
gist I get as
Avatar
well.
is that everyone is on a level playing field, and the Avatar can only control 3 other elements than anybody else, and that's it. And that's fine for Avatar. That's fine for the world of Avatar. I don't think that works for the world of Bionicle.
Yeah, but it worked for the Avatar.
it
Was a
worked.
successful line. Bionicle tried to do the thing where they made the Toa characters god complex characters that are completely different from the Matoran or the race of characters, and that line ended after 1 year.
Twice. And the lines ended
wait.
twice.
What?
Look at the hearts post.
What?
No, I laughed at it. That's all. We could do a political drama as a backdrop instead of the mysterious Jungle Island thing, but that necessitates complexity from our story element. Thus, we should have masks. Anyway, go on.
Anyway.
1 year.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. No, I remember the 1 year Bionicle we got in Generation 1. Yeah, no, you're right. They tried to make the Toa something that I guess they weren't, and it only lasted.
I don't know who are you responding to, me or Kahi?
I'm not sure who made that point.
Because
Someone
my
said
point,
one.
I'm talking about G2, where there have been 2 reboots, or one
Yes.
reboot and another hypothetical reboot, right? Okay.
I
So in one of those reboots, they did the opposite of what we're doing by making the Toa as different from the race of villagers as physically possible,
okay.
and it failed after 1 year.
Great. That's also still not what I'm arguing. I'm not saying they need to be completely different. I'm saying, and I quote verbatim what I just said, they need to be different enough.
Right, but
Yeah,
you're
but
different
what
enough
is
is the same
different enough?
difference. Yeah.
There are a few ways we go about making them different enough, and I've already put these forward. You either make Matoran shorter, and that's not a massive height difference because it's a system. You either
Posability, that's the issue. It's always
or
been about
like
posability.
AT has been
not the height
saying,
difference.
or like AT has been saying, you make it so that the Toa can do something that a Matoran absolutely cannot. I control a mask power, reach to a higher shelf. One of the three.
So let me ask you this, just for the purpose of curiosity. If we made the Matoran short but did not give the Toa mask powers, you'd be okay with that?
I would.
Or if we
still
gave
have,
the Toa mask powers but made the Matoran tall?
My arguments about the mask powers being intrinsic,
I know.
I still believe in those.
Just saying, for
I
compromise
think that
sake.
I understand the argument that mask powers might not make sense in this world given the origin.
Mhm.
However, I believe stronger in the idea of making the Toa different from a Matoran.
Yeah, I know, but that doesn't answer my
and
question.
what Kai was trying to say earlier, the point he was trying to make is that works in a world where the story is all about how these otherworldly creatures come to our planet. But when it comes to the story of our planet is what's creating these otherworldly creatures that come from what we are familiar with into a mysterious backdrop, then it makes less sense to have those characters suddenly super different from everybody else from where they came from.
Right. This is between Iron Man and Transformers.
Yeah.
John wins the live stream.
It's going to be at, what time is it now? It's going to be at 4, is what I told Fleff.
Okay, so an hour from now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
an
an
hour
hour
and
from now.
15 or 12.
There you go, fans.
It's because of the story that we're trying to tell. That's where the difference comes from. The root of the story is why it starts to make more sense to make the Toa characters more similar to the Matoran than the other way around. If we were telling the other story, it makes total sense that the Toa would be completely different from the Matoran characters. But the way we're doing it now, it makes less sense to make them completely different. Now, obviously, I don't necessarily agree with John here when it comes to how similar they need to be. I also don't necessarily agree with you when it comes to how different they need to be, because I don't think mask powers are a very effective way of doing that.
Okay.
I do think the leg size is an effective way of doing it, but I have kind of conceded that I don't really mind the changes that we've made now. So I'm very much in the middle here.
Okay, so
you're
so
Philip the Francoing this.
So let me get this straight. We're currently at a situation where we're having two conflicting ideologies. There's masks, there's legs, and both could potentially impact differences between Toa. Is that correct?
I'm fine with trading one.
I've got a plan. I know exactly what we need to do. Masks, legs, masks, shoes. We need to have all the Matoran have these shoes, but make them boots, and all the Matoran have like mask boots, and they have mask powers like in the shoes, and it makes them taller.
God. I can't swear because we're in this server now, but if we weren't, I'd be swearing up a storm.
Yes,
I was actually waiting. I was actually waiting on you to actually have something like, okay, this might be a good compromise.
I thought, I actually thought.
I honestly had,
serious
yeah.
to say.
Come on,
pieces, dude. It's great.
come on.
Go away.
I will be
Good
soon.
job,
Don't worry. Anyway, go on.
Good job.
The problem. So again, I maintain.
Let's grind this to a halt, guys. We got a stupid joke. We got a shoehorn in here.
I-
See what I did there? Shoehorn. All right, go on. I'm sorry.
Are you? I don't think so. So I think that they're again, like I said, I don't want them to be radically different. Like, don't get me wrong, I like the difference in Generation 1. That should be obvious because I was a fan of it. I'm not suggesting that here because you're right, it doesn't work for the world. So I'm a strong proponent for compromise.
Oh, really?
Yes. I do everything I can during this conversation to compromise as much as possible. I think a compromise can be reached here. It's just a matter of what gets traded. Because on the one hand, I do think that the size of the Toa and the mass powers are hallmarks of Toa. Now, one of those things might not work in this world. but I think if you want this to be a reimagining of Bionicle, one of them should stay. I mean, personally,
essentially,
Go ahead.
I don't know if we're doing a reimagining of Bionicle. I think we're doing our own theme Bionicle.
Check the description.
I know that's what we call it as marketing, but really we're doing a lot of stuff on our. We're using names or using concepts taken from, but like we've strayed very, very far. Right. So,
so it's a
but
reimagining.
not in the same way that
I'm not really sure I understand what point you're making.
The point I'm making is that like because it's different, saying
he's trying to say this is different enough that we do not need to carry over concepts.
We don't need to carry over concepts just because, like you're saying, they're hallmarks of Toa. Therefore, we need to do one of them. I don't know if that holds true. Do we need to do the mass powers or the height difference? There are things that are intrinsic to Toa that we're holding, like the elements. We talked about that today.
So you don't have any problem with Mary Jane being played by Zendaya?
Honestly, at this point, now I've seen her acting, I really don't.
High five. I'm with you.
I mean, I'm also okay with Nick Fury being black. I'm also okay with Aquaman being, Jason Momoa instead of like a blonde dude, right? It's like that's
to be
not
fair,
core to
that actually
character.
is consistent with John's interpretation on stuff. I disagree with it for certain things, but not with everything.
There are certain things that like
DC, so
yeah, likewise.
there
I
are
also don't
certain
care
things
about
that
Mary
would be
Jane.
like interesting.
But
So-
I see the merit in carrying over things.
We are
that-
doing a reimagining.
Right,
That
exactly.
is
A
the
reimagining
thing.
of Nick Fury is that he's now Samuel L. Jackson.
Well, sure, but that was in the comics before it was in the movies. They just ripped it from that.
We can always go
Ultimate
back.
Comics, that's fair.
Wait,
Well,
can we
they
have,
they did not rip it from that. When they made the Ultimate Comics, they asked Samuel L. Jackson to use his likeness, and he said, only if I play him in the movies. And he said, sure. So they made that deal at the same time. Fun fact.
Can we have a discussion? Not today, but we can always go back to body hacking. I really like that idea. Even if we have long legs, I still kind of want to do body hacking just because it could make for interesting villains.
I mean, I'm fine with body hacking too, but it doesn't really do anything for
Not
That's
really.
what we're talking about, right?
yeah.
That's fair.
If anything,
also
it
another
just makes
point.
them more similar again.
Scorpion Strike had a point not about legs but about masks. He posted it a while ago, but I was curious to your thoughts on it. It says, masks could be ancient artifacts that, while once used widely by Matoran, are no longer used anymore. It could be a side story about a previous Toa team, the realization that too much power in the hands of the Matoran was a destabilizing influence, and the powered masks being either destroyed or hidden. But by finding these masks again as they journey across the island looking for the fragments, our Toa inadvertently reintroduced powered masks to Matoran society, which only serves to destabilize it further, helping to lead into the Civil War. Which would just be
Interesting
another war.
idea. I want to put something forward.
Wait a
minute.
Put something backward.
That
I want to. Okay, so I know we don't want to do a mask hunt. We shouldn't do a mask hunt. We shouldn't do that with the idea of a mask hunt. But what's in the canisters?
Like,
That was a question we had, and we just acknowledged that weapons probably shouldn't be in it in this prior episode.
Oh, really? I forgot about that.
I am kind of on your line of thinking at the moment.
I am too. I like
saw
this,
that. I skipped
actually.
it up because we were talking about irrelevant stuff. I didn't want to distract from the conversation, but I did want to tie that back together because that was a good idea, I thought.
I like that idea. Would mass powers stay after the Toa have reintroduced the idea
Well, I would presume that they would stay for the duration of
the Civil
the
War?
theme, but perhaps as things get resolved on that island, I mean, the conclusion is still valid. Too much power is bad. I would presume at the end of
They would probably
Bionicle,
take them back. Yeah.
they would either take them back to free the islanders from
But
them,
the
or
point would be that they would have them during the majority of our story.
Right, and we can decide at the end there if we want that to happen or not, because we could get too attached to them or what they're doing to our characters. We don't know. Some of the things that that we're talking about now makes certain decisions that were made way back when more sense, right? Like right now that we're talking about other Matoran characters, I feel like the idea of having the longer legs and having the opposability and all that stuff is more relevant now than it was when we were discussing it way back when.
Definitely.
Because we didn't have any side characters back then.
But
And
we're
so the
getting
Matoran
to
were
that
throwaway.
point where it
Now
all
we're
does
getting to
come
the point,
back.
right? We're having Akmu, we're having all these people, we're having the whole thing with the
Scorpion
choline
Strike's
and
idea is
everything.
not a complete fix. We still do have to think about specific mask powers and what they would be to make sure there's nothing too OP. But the fact that they are viewed as a bad thing does open up avenues for
That does.
powers
That's
that-
That's an
does,
interesting
actually.
twist because
I-
powers traditionally
Right.
have always been a positive.
No, wait. What if it was like steroids, kind of? You know,
I mean,
How, like,
yeah,
it-
that's kind of like
Yeah.
the implication I get. Yeah.
right.
To be honest, if the reason that Matoran can't use the mask is because at a point in time they could and that power was taken away from them, I don't mind the Toa being the only people that can use mask powers.
I'm
If
fine
there's an
with that.
actual canon reason for
Right,
that
right.
works
That
within
fits
the
within
world.
Yeah. Okay.
I feel it also would hypothetically, if you guys are okay with that, fill the canisters. with
But
those initial sets.
I like the idea that the canisters have the mask. I, think
I
that's a
hate to
cool idea.
detract
Okay.
from this point because I like it. And it seems like it's counterintuitive.
Here we
But
go.
I gotta say though,
How?
I like the concept here of the Matoran being able to use the mask powers. It was just taken away from them, and reintroducing them into society causes it to destabilize. If the Toa are the only ones that can use them, that is fine. That is in keeping with Bionicle traditionally, but I feel like this is a new, interesting story.
No, I think
Twist.
No,
I think
what I
actually
was
that-
saying
that-
wasn't
that
that,
ties in
that the Matoran can't use them at all. It's just that there's a
they're
reason
taken
why
away,
they're not
right.
using them.
Oh,
right now, right.
yeah, that's fair. That makes
And
sense.
so, like, I mean, like, think of it this way: like, once the masks are reintroduced, once these things, first off, the idea of like hypocrisy coming from the Toa who already are using the mask, and if they don't want, like, that idea that if you don't let us use the mask, you're just being hypocrites because we were, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Which, in a sense, this go on.
It's true. As the secondary thing can also be kind of like, I mean, in the Civil War, the actual movie, Captain America Civil War, the same thing can apply. The governments and the villages can be like, hey, what if the Toa decide that they want to take us over? What do we have to stop them? Right. And so like that the people are seeing the Toa and they want to be like the Toa. So they're also starting to use the massive powers and overextend themselves and doing that. And that's like leading more and more and more into this destabilizing thing.
That's awesome. That's just this video that Wad posted.
I've never seen this before. I'm a little intrigued.
Wad, you never fail.
I'm really glad that we're
This guy's so memey.
What I like about the idea is it also is in keeping with what we already have, specifically the Vahi, because that's the whole theme with the Vahi is it was too much, and people could not use it except for the Toa who are able to use it.
I
Because
think
they're
not only
worthy.
is it destabilizing factor, there is also, like Kahi, you were mentioning steroids earlier.
Steroids.
Steroids. Yeah, that's what he said earlier.
That's
I
what,
didn't even notice.
Yeah. Anyway,
because I didn't say it, but it's okay.
yeah, you did, buddy.
Make something up. Why not?
Okay, so the black portal.
Oh, the good times. Go on.
Anyway, so what if it does have a detrimental effect to the Matoran bodies? And that is why the Toa can use them as effectively because their bodies are augmented so much.
We mean
to be
over
able to
time,
handle
right?
them. Maybe, well, of course,
long
over time, not immediately. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not like that one scene in Iron Man 2 where Tony Stark's showing like the council like all the testing for the robots, and that guy's like has that prototype Iron Man suit, and Hammer's there, and he goes, "All right, now turn," and he turns, and it totally like breaks his spine.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. If the Toa took away the mask, why do Matoran have masks?
They're just decorative.
It's probably a culture thing, I'd wager.
Yeah, it's just part of their culture.
It became so like, I'm not going to use. It
I
became so
mean, to
intrinsic.
them, it's part of their
culture.
armor. It's like us wearing.
Maybe it could be part of the legend. Like at
That's also
one
possible.
point, it said that the mask
moment.
actually wielded the power of shielding or something. But like nowadays, it's just sort of it means like it's like a
Well, like, hold on.
Metaphorical shielding.
Now I'm trying to think. How big is the population on the island? Can the
Pretty
canisters
big.
hold that many masks?
well. How big is the population of Utah? Let's see.
Huh.
Utah,
Canisters. They don't have big
almost 3 million.
3 million.
So
But
I don't think the 6 canisters could hold 3 million masks.
Yeah, I did not
But
envision.
they could have destroyed the mask.
That's what I would say. Most of the masks were destroyed.
Were destroyed. Yeah.
It makes sense. Like but then that even makes the old Toa fallible, because then you get into like the Mass Effect 3 conundrum. It's like destroy versus control. It's like, obviously, maybe some of the Toa felt like preserving some of the masks for historical purposes in case they were needed. But Eljay, what you missed was the majority of the masks were probably destroyed, because the population of Utah is 3 million, and there's no way 3 million masks can fit into a canister. So.
Oh yeah, no.
I would imagine there were only some.
My thought process was it's just the one mask. They're just backwards engineered, because it's not just the masks that were hidden. It's one mask for the Toa, or at least maybe not even for the Toa, but just as kind of like a keepsake. And not only had all the masks been lost, but the technology and the concept behind how to design them and mass produce them had been lost.
Scorpion Strike says, if in some regions some Matoran turned to using the masks for the arguments mentioned, while others decided against it for the reasons that the masks were first taken away, the conflict could come out of an actual civil war in those regions. Also, who says all the masks have to be hidden if they're reintroduced? What if some Matoran start making them again? Just what you said. My question is, how? I'm curious if you can help us think through this, Scorpion Strike.
Well, if the Matorans, or if the Toa's goal was to destroy the mask, who's to say that they were able to destroy every single one?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's what we were saying. Like, some might have been preserved. I'm just wondering, like, if we were going to go this route of mass producing the masks, again, reintroducing them into society, how would they make the powers in the masks?
Well, my thought process...
If we don't want to do that and just have them hidden, that's fine too. That solves that problem.
Here's my idea. I've already said, I think that it's a type of mask. There's a specific technology, how the process behind that had just been lost to time since it's been so long. And this is kind of going to be like a Legend of Korra scenario where the other realm had been locked off. But Korra's like, let's try something new. Opens it up. It's just a horrific mess.
I mean, sure, I have no problem with that, and I have no problem with the concept of masks being reintroduced and all that, like what Scorpion Strike and you were saying right now. My only thing I'm just wondering is, I always assumed, again, I guess this was never a thing, I'm just a lunatic, I assumed that there were mask makers in society who made these masks.
I mean, yeah, you're right, there would be, because they all wear masks.
Exactly. Exactly. And like I always envisioned it to be like the two mask makers, the brothers. But I would say that there are people in society.
I'm curious how you assumed that when the brothers have been locked away for centuries.
I'm a crazy person, I thought.
Yeah.
That's what I think it is. I'll take full fault on that one. But now, like, if it's just mask makers like Vakama, that's cool. I have zero issue with that. What's the process of making a powered mask? How would they get these masks that have been locked away back and then be able to reverse engineer that and put shielding into a mask? What is that process?
That's the kind of thing where...
We really should have just done another podcast today because we're going to come up with all this stuff and people are going to be like,
it's all been recording. Maybe I'll post it.
To be fair, we're all on recording, so...
Cool. Yeah, we are recording.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 254.
4.5.
I'm using bad audio because I'm on my headset, but...
It sounds all right.
It's not that bad.
Okay, so here is...
Their ugly faces, just like Eljay.
It's the ideal make body.
Make body.
Who the heck is Steven Crowder? That guy's been...
He's a political pundit.
Yeah, he's a
this is
Republican guy. Yeah, it's
okay.
He actually posted a photo of Eljay.
That's why I was wondering. It's like, did he really post that?
Listen, if he did, that would be.
If he did, I would have gotten in some massive political drama.
Right.
That's the only.
No, I don't think so. I don't think people. Like, he did that. That was his original tweet. But if he posted Eljay, people would be like, "What? What's the? Why is he wearing the? What's this thing he's holding?"
Scorpion Strike. You say that mask makers would be smiths with a particular knowledge of how to imbue powers in masks. That knowledge was banned and lost when the masks were taken away by let's say, a previous Toa team. Great.
The problem with that is
sense.
that doesn't work. The problem with that is that the Toa have not existed for a very long time, to the point that some of our civilizations don't even believe in them.
And that still works because like people could just believe the powers that masks used to have was just a myth, a story.
Yeah,
that people used to tell.
Right, but the suggestion here is that they can still give the mask powers, but they can't because it's covered by the Toa.
What if the actual so the Toa say we're all going to destroy all the masks. One of the Toa's like, I really don't agree with this. But he hides away the actual not recipe, but like the instructions that the mask makers used to use on how to land. He hides them.
do that.
I mean, yeah,
don't know
that's
anything
one
about
idea. I
be
think
the-
it would just be easier to go. They reverse engineer them.
I'm a sucker for detail.
We have mask makers in the world.
We do, but I just and making the masks is fine. I'm just curious.
Yeah, but
like,
how do you?
how
Where
they
does
get
the
those
power
powers.
come from?
Yeah, no, I get that because it's like it's one thing to have to make a hat, and another thing to make a hat that gives you magic powers. You know.
Well, this is assuming that they're going to have these fantastical powers. Remember, these are still just augments.
They are, but
We still have to make them. Though.
if we did this idea for the masks, it would allow for a wider range of mask powers.
I don't
within
think that
reason.
needs to be explained.
it
It is an ancient technology, the practices of which had been lost to time, and now it's being reverse engineered to happen again. And now they can make they reverse engineered the mask to allow for masks with power.
That's fair, but at that point, I feel like it would make more sense to avoid stupid questions like that, and in like how does it made, and instead just say that some masks were hidden away in the canisters, not 3 million masks, but perhaps a fair amount of masks, and that when those masks come back into society, not everybody can get one, and that causes feuds, and that prevents power creep. And that means that only the characters we choose to give focus to, the side characters, have masks, which can allow for threats to the Toa, or it could allow for maturing side characters and sets or important people. It could allow for jealousy and bitterness from people who want masks and can't get one.
In between you talking, I went from, well, maybe we shouldn't have the mask in the canisters. And I was like, no, wait, we totally should have the mask in the canisters. And I went this whole different thing in my mind. So here's what could happen, possibly, okay? The canisters, the Toa find the canisters, and they have a certain number of masks inside. It's obviously not 3 million or whatever. It's just it's a decent amount, but definitely not.
I want to make it 3.
Maybe a little too small. Don't die on us.
Yeah.
Not enough to, really enough to like circulate, but not to like actually make a impact on anything.
Yeah.
So the Toa decide, at the end of this, they believe they defeated the Rahkshi, quote unquote, at the end of year 1. And they're like, okay, well, now we just have this stuff to deal with. Each Toa leaves it to the other to decide what they're going to do with the masks in their canisters. Because there's like 6 canisters, right? Some of them keep them, and they're like, we're not going to let anyone hold this. Others take them back to their government. Tahu could have possibly taken it back to Mangai in exchange for no longer being exiled or everything. He gives he gives it to the leaders as a this peace token, and they kind of see if they can utilize this because they know a war is about to come. And then Kopaka does the same thing because he knows Tahu's probably going to do it.
Yeah, but would Tahu actually facilitate a civil war with their people, though? They're not going to give them weapons.
No. Listen, they didn't facilitate a war between their people. For Tahu, it's an exile thing where they're like, they want, in order to win back his.
No, but he's still facilitating war for his people. He's giving them weapons, knowing that a war is brewing.
For defense. Well,
yeah, for defense, it's the same thing. For attack or defense, it doesn't matter. That's a war. If Kopaka is giving weapons to his people for defense, and Katahu is giving weapons to his people for defense, they're just giving them weapons.
When I get inside, that makes sense to me.
I mean,
The Toa just got
like,
done saving the world war because they've been saving the world from the Rahkshi. They haven't had time to mitigate peace between their people. They know it's coming. They can't stop it, and that's part of their character fallacy.
No, but that's their goal should be to try and stop it, though, not help facilitate it.
Well, I would say, remember, these mask powers are just slow, or very, they're augments essentially, right? So they can run a little faster, they can, have a bit more endurance or do all this thing. The idea, like, presumably it's like, if Tahu goes back to his home country, he's just prepping for defense because he knows that the ice village is going to attack him in retaliation. Even Kopaka's not able to stop it. There's people in the high council that deal with Kopaka, and this is going to be a thing in the Civil War. Kopaka's not going to want to go to war, but the rest of his village is going to. They're going to see him as less of a king.
But that doesn't explain why he would provide them with weapons.
Listen, I'll use a Marvel analogy.
We could do.
War.
I mean, it doesn't need to be.
What if he didn't?
No, I mean, like, it doesn't need to be directly right after the year. It could be while the Civil War is going on, and they're like, we really, we're getting attacked in all fronts. Tahu, we do need something to take back. And Tahu, against his better judgment, is like, okay, fine.
Because he's trying to make it up to his people.
Right. So it's not instigating war. So I see your problem with that. But it's after the war is already going on. This is how the Tahu feels that he can have his village kind of stand in defense because of the offensive
Kopaka
line.
feels it's his solemn duty to protect his people because he's royalty. Tahu feels guilty because he has to make it up to his people.
Right.
And he's pressured into doing
they're suffering for his mistakes.
Generals.
This seems extremely out of character for their characters, though. Like, I understand, like, the idea of they want to make it up to their people, sure, but, like, the Toa took the mask away from the Matorn because it was too dangerous. Why would the Toa then give the mask right back to the Matorn in a state of perpetual war between the Matorn?
Because that was the old Toa went through the entire thing, and then they realized it wasn't there. Our Toa have not been through that. They don't know that.
And because they have not had a chance to learn from history, because they haven't communicated with the old Toa, they are doomed to repeat it, as the adage goes. But also, to use a Marvel Civil War comparison, like, why would either side give their side weapons? Spider-Man and Ant-Man. It happens all the time. They were literally introduced into that fight just to, like, give an edge on either side. Because that's what you do. You win. I like that our Toa are like bigger picture, but in the heat of the moment, I don't know if they'd make that call.
I mean, in Civil War, they were actively withholding punches to try and avoid actually doing any real damage between each other during that entire fight. The only reason they brought Spider-Man in was to try and help capture them. No one was trying to kill or hurt anyone else.
Giant Man
was not trying to kill or hurt anyone else.
So Giant Man isn't going to capture anybody. I mean,
he
threw a tanker truck.
He gets big, and the first thing he does is grab War Machine.
Right. He grabbed. You know how much of a big deal it was when the Vision shot War Machine out of the sky? That wasn't supposed to happen. They weren't there to hurt each other.
Mm-hmm. And the masks, like, we haven't designed yet.
We're getting sidetracked in the Marvel comparison because I don't think that's an accurate comparison. You're right. The characters, the Toa themselves, might not want to hurt each other, but their villages already are. The whole point of the Civil War is to test what's your duty to the overall health of the island and to everybody, but also to your people who you've grown up with and who you side with. These are essentially different countries. They have different cultures. They have different governments. And so the Toa are conflicted because they do feel attachment to their country. They also have a greater attachment to the world, and they're going to have to try and figure that out throughout the entirety of that year.
The internal civil war.
That's why Kopaka is the king, or the prince, but also the king.
Yeah, but it's also why he's going to not be the king when he realizes that he can't convince them not to fight.
That's his character growth. That's going to be throughout the second of the year. But there does need to be a ramp up as the conflict continues to go. If Ihu is attacking Mangai, and both Kopaka and Tahu are not able to get them to stop, right? Where does that leave Tahu? Kopaka is not doing anything in his end because he does not want to fight, but his entire country is pushing. They're forcing him to. It's a pressure given him by the general attitude of the people. Tahu is doing the same thing, but Tahu is reactionary against the Ihu's relentless attack against the Mangaians.
Cause effect.
Are you guys expecting the Toa to participate in the war? Like,
not really.
Tahu is actually going to be fighting alongside his Mangaian people against Ihu people?
There might be a plot
in concept, no, but we also haven't fleshed out what the Toa are going to be doing in that year. So maybe. I don't think so, though.
I've been under the impression that the Toa, their entire goal throughout the entire year would be to actively try and stop the war and unite the people against a common enemy, which would be Makuta, which would carry us into year 3. To me, it doesn't make any sense to have the Toa actively go out and do something that would prolong the war.
Yeah, but do the Toa know that Makuta's free?
To try and stop it.
Do the Toa know that they accidentally freed Makuta?
I don't think they do.
Yeah, Makuta's going to be a thing in the second half of the season 1.
From
Remember, he gets
impression that-
revived in the middle of the season.
I was assumed that because it was Tahu who did that, we mentioned how he would like Makuta would influence him with the mask or whatever, and like he wouldn't realize what he'd done until later on.
No, because this is why we were afraid it would be too similar to Karzani, because he would immediately reveal himself because the Toa accidentally set himself free.
Yeah, but that's why we ditched the Karzani plans for the short.
Well,
term.
yeah, exactly, because we were going with Makuta instead. So Makuta gets freed. Second half of, or the first half, or sorry, halfway through season 1, and Makuta and the Rahkshi are the villains for the second half of season 1.
Is it halfway through season 1? Because I always thought it was just...
Yes, because they're building up the Civil War for the second half of season 1, and then in season 2, that's when we start the Civil War.
I did not think in my mind that Makuta's resurgence would become Toa knowledge until year 2. And that would be the point where they would try to stop the Civil War. But what I predict happens is the Toa think they've won. The only threat's the Rahkshi. Unbeknownst to them, they freed Makuta. So they go back home thinking the day's been saved. That's where they find the masks. That's where they do the whole Civil War thing. And like, oh, that starts, that ramps up. Masks get introduced into society. That sparks problems. Civil War ramps up. It starts at the end of year 1.
Well, but prior to the mask, how did you think the Civil War was going to get started?
Same shtick. The Toa return back home. The island's unfrozen, and they get to do their whole like reintroduction into life thing that we were talking about. Like Onua finds it difficult to connect with people, etc. Come to find out, things aren't going too well. I don't know if everyone's aware that the island got frozen, but perhaps someone gets blamed for it. There's just general political instability that continues. We really hadn't thought as far as a catalyst.
I mean, like
yet.
I thought we had always said that Makuta was going to be stirring the pot when it comes to
Makuta is stirring the pot, but the
throughout
Toa
year 2.
know he's doing that. Yeah,
That's the whole point
I
of
thought we were
having a
starting
manipulator.
Civil War at the beginning of year 2.
Yeah.
So how is he stirring the pot after the war has started?
he's
The whole point was that he was setting it up.
The war is an ongoing thing, and the different alliances they have throughout the village and stuff will change over time, as well as what goes on and forces certain decisions.
There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that go into war that isn't typically like focused upon
Of
in
course.
media.
Like, I mean, I think about, like, you know, for instance, Makuta would be the person going
No,
to...
we didn't ditch the time freezing thing.
No.
Makuta would be the one going to Roose Bolton, for example, and having him ambush the Lannisters and with Walder Frey. You know, like that would be a thing that would happen. That's still an ongoing thing. There's
How
still
are we
a
going
war
to convey
plot.
that
So, okay.
if we don't know that Makuta's back?
No, Makuta will be going around influencing the villages as an advisor, as a, like that will be his network.
When are we going to see Makuta in the show?
We're going to see him. The Toa aren't going to see him. We're going to see him whenever he's revived onwards, but the Toa aren't going to see him.
Think Megatron from season 2 of Transformers Animated. The
Okay.
Toa think they've won, but Megatron has his own scenes and he's in the background just doing stuff.
Right.
That's what I get. That's what I would imagine it would be in the TV show. We would cut to Makuta's perspective with the Rahkshi presumably still around.
Because the Rahkshi are still characters that we've invested in as well.
And
So
through
we'll
watching Makuta, we would get to see his mask power in action and like he can
Right.
control people. And like, hey, you should go attack here, or you should betray this person, or you should do X, Y, Z.
I mean, wasn't one of the plot points... Oh, no, that was Makuta whispering to Tahu to unfreeze him. I was thinking, it's not unlandish to believe that Makuta would either A, whisper to Tahu again, hey, you guys should attack Ihu, or whisper to Kapaka, give your village the mask.
No, but
that
we
that's
had
a good
the
idea.
plan a long time
Yeah.
ago where Makuta said something to Tahu and we
Right,
wouldn't
exactly.
what it was.
We
What if
know what it
Give
was.
them the masks.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, it has to be unfreeze them.
Yeah,
No, but
he's speaking to him through the mask.
Oh,
The proximity to Makuta, because they're right there in Makuta's area. So he puts on the Mask of Time, and Makuta's able to tell him what to do there. But like, if he's just walking around in his own village, Makuta's not going to be able to control him.
No, I know, but the idea was that like, okay, now this is a separate idea, an old idea, so it will need to be reworked. Okay, but this is the old idea that we had. The old idea was that at some point, this is way back when Makuta was going to be powerless for a while. He would not have the mask as soon as he was revived. Then he would get the mask control, and he would be ambushed. He'd be like, there would be a whole thing where the Toa are chasing him, but only Tahu's able to get through, right? And he jumps and attacks Makuta, and Makuta says, stop. And he goes over and he whispers something to Tahu, and then he leaves, and then Tahu's like, oh, what happened? All right, and we wouldn't know what he said.
Blacked out.
Right.
Oh, okay.
We wouldn't know what Makuta said to Tahu until later. And so that would be we would
I like
know.
that. I like that.
So at that point, we were thinking it could be, when the Toa get to this part, betray them or do something, but it could be give them the masks.
Okay. I like that. But how does that work? How are we going to set that up?
So that's what we're trying to figure out now.
You can set that up if Makuta gets revived in the midway point of season 1 and is around for the second part of season 2.
I think
I'll make the concession.
Yeah, we can do that. We can make that happen. Well, my thing is that I think Makuta should be around midway through season 1. Just the Toa don't know he's around. If that makes sense. Right? Like he does not become their active. He's doing all the things that are threats to them, but they believe that they've either defeated him or they have frozen the island and they're just dealing with the Rahkshi.
Could be something as simple as just like there's a Rahkshi attack or something like in Mungai or whatever. They just attack Mungai just like in Mask of Light. And during that, Makuta steps out, talks to Tahu, and then disappears.
Yeah. I think that could work. That could totally work.
Okay. I like that. Though it...
The mask control should have active limits on it. But
my only problem is, do we really want Tahu to get like brainwashed twice into doing his control? Maybe it should be a different Toa.
Maybe.
I'm thinking it should be Kopaka because if you think about it, there's still the animosity behind his father dying. I'm pretty sure his
That's
village
true.
will want to go to war. He's going to be...
Kopaka would be the one who would come to that conclusion himself without needing any direction, but probably wouldn't act on it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that would be kind of the nudge.
That would be the nudge.
All Makuta is doing.
Krasik says Liwa gets brainwashed, and I agree, but maybe not like in this context. Like this context is about like the Ihu versus Mengai shtick. So like it makes sense for it to be either Tahu or Kopaka. But Liwa getting brainwashed would be
because Tahu wouldn't give his village the masks. Kopaka would be recommended.
Wait, no, possibly, but Tahu would after Kopaka gives him.
That's what I was getting to.
Very nice. Thumbs up.
Okay, now it's working.
All right. Scorpion Strike says he's got an idea regarding Tahu's situation and giving them a try on the masks, but it's going to take a while to type up. So once you do type that up, send it to us and we'll check it out. But this is neat. Man, this is good. Another podcast to edit. I really hope Craig works.
I know if Craig doesn't work, then we can summarize all of this though. The whole discussion point was although it's cool to hear us go through all of this discussion, and I think that we should still have it for the audience, we can summarize it. But I like that idea a lot of the masks being introduced are part of Makuta's control, and that's an influence thing he does in order to stabilize.
Yeah, that I like.
Yeah,
it also
that makes sense because
it ties into Eljay's reservations with the Civil War coming on too quickly. Now there's a spark, a catalyst.
Now it works.
Makuta is wanting to happen sooner than later, and that's why he's doing it.
Yes, this is a lot,
and it solves any out of character moments.
This is what I was thinking that he'd be doing. Is he would be the catalyst for it the whole time?
Definitely.
Right.
I know the Civil War is just going to come out of nowhere.
Right.
Praise be Scorpion Strike.
Okay, the mask work. Okay, cool. Now, so let's go over what the masks were again. So they existed in the universe. The Toa said they were too dangerous. They took them away.
Yes.
Right.
So what happened to them? They destroyed most of them and then hid
some remainders.
May I give a bit of a suggestion?
Do it.
Sure.
Okay. So you guys obviously know we do not have Suvas. Those are pretty much gone.
Yeah.
My suggestion: one of each mask should be hidden in every canister.
Oh no!
I see where you're going with this.
Well, 12 masks in one canister. That makes sense. That's a good sizable number.
I was only thinking 6. I forgot about
12.
the.
We can,
okay.
I mean, we can reduce it to 6.
I'm
I'm fine with reducing it.
they
I
open
think
it
I
up.
get where all this is going.
There are 6 masks. The Toa take their respective, and the rest go to the villagers.
Okay.
Oh, so
Okay.
no, that was not where I thought you were going with that.
Where did you think he was going?
I thought, because you mentioned Suvas, I thought it was like, so the old Toa, they basically hid keys in the canisters, one of each mask, and it was the Toa finding new versions of their masks. Let's play Super Pander fan service and say they're gold masks. Why the heck not? They're in the canisters. They take the gold masks to the Suva, and it opens up, revealing a giant cache of masks hidden underneath the island.
That's cool.
That
The
is
gold
really
masks are the
cool. I
keys.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
actually a great
The gold
idea.
mask.
That is
Okay.
awesome.
That is
That's
really
all they
cool.
are. They're
And then we
keys.
can have the battle packs with like the entrance to the Suva and the gold mask on it. Oh, okay.
So the Suvas are the containers for the mask. The Toa, the golden
This
masks
is the better
are
second
hidden.
half. This is the better part of the podcast than the one we just recorded.
So the golden
So much
masks
better.
are going to be in their canisters. They open up the canisters, they get the golden mask, take it to the Suva, boom. That's where the masks are hidden.
Golden masks, and even like they don't even really have to have power per se. They could just be keys.
Yeah,
They're just keys.
That's great. That's perfect, dude.
It's yeah, okay. See, it's in the world. It ties in together. I'm really liking this.
Redemption run.
Wait,
Congratulations,
what
everybody.
would be in the canister? Would it be just a key and a mask, or just a key?
I'd say
The
just a
key is the mask.
The key is the
in a
mask.
sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Using
Okay,
the
so
gold
it'd be
mask.
just their respective mask, and then they use
Right.
that to find all the rest.
Pretty much.
Yes.
And the reason they did that way back when was because the Toa felt like they're too valuable to destroy, but we have to lock them away. And the only way to truly keep them safe is so only another Toa team could do it. What they didn't count on was so many years having passed without a need for Toa, to where this stuff's been lost to time and history. And obviously these new Toa don't know what's up. They just see it, they see it as a good thing in this hostile climate that the
I
island's in
love
right now.
this. Okay, I'm glad we introduced masks.
I
I
came
gotta find a
around.
way to make it work.
I was always like, why isn't it working? Now it works.
So you had to tweak the variables a little bit.
You got to make it integral to the story.
Yeah,
That's
what it's
that's
all
always
about.
the only thing. If
And
you
that
make
was
it-
the pitfall
is the
during
story
the
moving forward,
podcast.
then
I was
it's good.
arguing it from a set perspective.
Right.
That's why it didn't really work out.
We're creating a new world, so we need to have it make sense in the story. But this makes so much sense, and it ties into stuff that we're doing forward. This is really good.
Well, okay, here's Scorpion Strike's thing. Let's see. Prentice says maybe you could just edit it to where you do this intro and then slide this into the podcast instead of everything. Just
This is
record it.
better than the actual podcast.
This is actually, this is better because we
Maybe.
actually arrive at something.
I'll see how it all edits at.
We could do an extra special long version.
Yeah,
I
but
don't-
like I want people to hear it.
Unfortunately, this hasn't solved our leg discussion, but this definitely has gotten masks.
Well, I mean,
back.
this is, yeah.
Do you still really
Like,
care about the legs?
I think Eljay does.
I am still of the opinion that size matters. I think that it's a discussion we should still find.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
because it's not even just a matter of whether or not it's my perspective versus your perspective. It's just a matter of concept, because no matter what, we have to decide on something for literally every visual ever.
We will
Right.
make a decision. I can't guarantee we'll have a massive argument about it just because
I think
I
the
feel like
argument's
all the
been
points.
had. It's
The
basically
argument's-
coming down to
We're
a vote
basically just
soon.
gonna have to put it down to a vote, yeah. And I don't think it'll work out in your favor, but we'll see.
I think like
whatever it is,
We do need
it's
to
not
decide something.
it's not just the size for me. I mean, I feel like
We
the
will
Toa
decide.
should be larger, and they will be with the armor. It's the posability of the legs, and as the Matoran become, we pitch more ideas for more Matoran characters. The fact that they don't have a very core feature of the Matoran, or core feature of the minifigure, is kind of distressing to me.
We've
I
already
love that
been-
there's an actual reason that gold mask exists.
Right?
That's
Wait,
more
is it a
than
gold
just
mask, or is it just a normal colored mask?
No,
gold
they're
mask.
gold
They're golden
masks. It's a gold
masks.
mask.
The golden masks are the key to the rest of the masks.
That's what they were as.
Okay.
Which, in a sense, is spiritually how it was in G1 as well, because the gold
Right.
masks had like all the masks.
But I love it. They're the key to the vault. You know, it's like they had they took all the mask powers and they sealed them
That
away.
could even be a set, like the
Oh my
mask
god, that's so
vault.
cool.
Right.
I really like that idea.
No, see, that's totally it. Makuta, they don't know, like, they didn't leave any messages, right? The Toa don't know that the golden masks are the keys, but Makuta does.
Exactly.
Because well, actually, how does he know that? Hold up. He's been frozen for a long time.
he's
How
been
does he know
around
that?
forever.
been
Of course, he'd
sentient,
know
though.
that.
Yeah, he's been sentient.
He knows almost everything there is to know. That's easily.
He was sealed away. That doesn't mean he doesn't have knowledge of what's been going on.
Right. He's still able to feed off that. Okay, cool.
I was gonna say something. So here's a question: do we want 1 Suva, 1 vault, or 6 vaults? 1 per Toa. I want 1 vault.
6 vaults.
6 vaults.
Okay, fine. 6 vaults.
I mean, you could do like a Kini Nui sort of thing where you have all the Toa gather around, put their masks.
That's what I
on the
envisioned it
Kini.
as, was the Kini Nui. But if you want to do 6 vaults, that's fine.
I think it should be 6 vaults because that way you arm your populace.
And then
There's not a war over the resource.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, and then 6 vaults means we can do battle packs, so fair enough.
And that means that the Toa are only responsible for their village. So Kopaka can't steal every single mask out of that vault.
Exactly.
Makuta
And
tells him to do
these
it.
battle packs are perfect because it reintroduces collectible masks.
Yes,
All
and
the
it's like
masks
a better
level.
version of the Nexo-Knights.
Wow, this is really cool. Man, that
This is
worked
good.
out.
It worked. I know, like any new mask we introduce, we can just say that they were in the vault the entire time.
Wow. What a great idea.
It's like a mask hunt, but it's not a mask hunt because
So-
they're all
you
in
know,
one place.
Yeah,
It's an
exactly. We don't have the
unintentional
masks,
mask
but,
hunt.
like, exactly.
Well, the thing is, we could even say there was a mask hunt long ago.
Long ago, right? That's what they collected. All the masks. Yeah.
Oh, you're right.
Exactly.
That was a thing that they did. They gathered the mask and they locked them away. So the past Toa did that. It all worked. The thing that I really like about RG3 is that it's alluding to the fact that the G1 Toa existed in this universe and all their stories sort of happened or semi-happened or something comparable happened.
Similar.
It's like
Something
G1 to
yeah.
Transformers Animated, like they alluded that something similar.
Exactly.
happened. Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of like. I want to like subtly hint that G1 is canon in G3, but not like exactly G1, but like sort of G1.
Right.
So that all the people that are really attached to those original Toa did exist at one point. They're just not our current Toa.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like that. I like the subtle hints. Like there are just small things that like, oh, they gathered the mask and sealed them
like
away.
the previous Toa generation was essentially the G1 Toa, right? Where they did
Sure.
right.
Or the first Toa.
Or first Toa, right.
It's vague.
The
It doesn't
last one's in
matter.
the mask hunt.
Yeah.
The last one's in the mask hunt.
Yeah, we can say the previous Toa were the ones that did the mask hunt.
Sure.
That could be why they were called upon by the elemental gods.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that was their destiny. Their ultimate destiny
Right.
was to bring the mask, gather them,
Right.
and steal them
Because
away.
the elemental gods felt that the masks were like the Matoran were abusing them in the same way that the great beings were, the Makuta and Kimu and everything. And so they summoned the Toa and they took away all the masks and they sealed them away.
Yeah.
I like it. Wow. Man, that was good.
That was good.
That was good.
All right.
Man, I hope Craig was recording that not only because like it'd be a cool thing to release, but also I do not want to forget all of this before it's written down.
It's okay.
I will listen. I will write down here. I'll section off a thing in the story. But oh no, wait. Do you have editing thing on the story Bible?
I'll give you editing privileges.
Okay. I'll like section off a ongoing story thing where we plot the years while you finish up the villages.
Let's see, what's
All
Scorpion
right.
Strike's in here?
Be right back real quick.
Kaku's in exile, which we didn't tell the other Toa.
I don't really think Tahoe was in exile.
He was in exile. He
I
was.
thought
in
he
exile.
was like,
Here's the thing:
frowned
he's accepted back because he became the Toa.
Yeah.
What? Well,
I think that's just the easiest way to move the plot along. I don't think we need to have him.
I do like this thing though. That like, okay, what Scorpion Strike is suggesting is going to be what ties everything in together. Okay, so the Rahkshi attack Mingaya, right? The Toa are there. Maybe Taku doesn't go there because he's exiled at the moment. That's why Kopaka's the one that gets told by Makuta. Then suddenly, under Makuta's influence, Kopaka does unlock all the masks and he gives them to the Ihuans. And the Ihuans are now attacking Mingayans, and Mingayans are like, what are these? The troops are way better than they were before. What's going on? All this stuff. And so Taku comes and he's like, all right, I know what he's doing. I know his strategy. I can give you I can put you on an even playing field.
But here's the pitfall. Just logistics. This is why I thought one vault made more sense. it takes 6 Toa's cooperation, 6 keys to unlock a vault.
No, it doesn't.
I thought that was what it was.
1 gold mask unlocks 1 Suva.
I guess that is the difference, but I thought it was what I was trying to say was the 6 golden masks. And because remember, I thought it was Kini Nui at first.
Yeah.
It takes cooperation to unlock. What we're saying now is that only 1 gold mask will unlock a mask.
1
vault,
Suva. Right.
which I guess I'm down for.
Yeah, it's not what you initially were trying to say,
It's
but I
fine.
think it works.
Right.
It works for the
I
plot.
think
It
so
works a bit better
right.
with what the story is trying to do.
Var, you kind of missed what? Did you read Scorpion's
I heard
story?
you. I heard you.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Tahoe's in exile, and
The thing is, Tahu wasn't. I mean, I guess Tahu can be exiled, but he wasn't exiled before. He
that's
was
what
just
I was
sort of.
saying.
Yeah, he still lived there. He was still welcome there. It's just people didn't.
Diminished his accomplishments.
I
Yeah,
thought he was exiled.
No,
Okay,
he wasn't
that's my
exiled.
bad.
His accomplishments were
My
just like disregarded. He was sort of like he went from being this person of high praise to someone who was like looked down upon, essentially, where they just don't acknowledge him. So he's there, but it's like a silent exile almost, like a social exile. He's kicked out of being like the senior general for that village, and he's just a normal citizen, and he's lost all of his. It's like being dishonorably discharged, essentially.
Okay, right. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So you're
That's what
still allowed
happened
in
to him.
America, but you are no longer, given the
Yeah.
military.
You're not in the military. You don't have the accomplishments of being in the military, and everybody thinks you're kind of scum.
Okay, all right.
If it makes sense for the plot, I'm not opposed to him being exiled, though. If we can figure out a way to do it without that, that's
Sure.
cool.
I mean, I don't think it needs to be for that pitch to work, though. The pitch is essentially the same thing we were talking about before. Tahu, in order to get back in the good graces, puts them on an even playing field by unlocking his Suva and giving the mask.
Right, but he doesn't do
Right.
that until after Kopaka does it.
After Kopaka does it.
Right. That makes sense. That works.
So for him, it's an even playing field. It's not advantage. It's not out of character for him because he's like, oh, Kopaka's playing dirty. All right, fine. Now we will get, and also it helped him get back in the good graces of everyone in the military.
Oh, look at this. Purple actually contributed to G3.
It's phenomenal.
What is
Wait,
this?
Hold on. Yep, I'm looking outside now. The end times have come.
I see pigs
There are
soaring to the
pigs.
sky.
Yeah,
on
they're
top of
flying
airplanes.
everywhere.
Access denied. Well, thanks, Purple. I appreciate it.
You suck. All right, let's see here. Accuracy. Increase
Toa,
the wearer's
Hanzo Wing.
accuracy,
Wow. Okay.
balance, endurance, night vision, sonar direction, speed.
Where
stamina.
has a higher sense of balance is able to balance objects as well as their social lives. Sounds like wish fulfillment here, huh?
Yeah, it does.
Actually, really cool though.
Oh,
night vision.
okay. She's attributed the mass powers to Atoa too. Kopaka, night vision, observation, and sonar and direction. That makes total sense.
It does.
Yeah, right. Huh. Endurance, stamina. Golly has sonar, the vision, speed, night vision. Okay. So they all have extra elements of their mask powers. So it could be part of the golden
You
mask.
can pick and choose, yeah. Or it
Yeah.
could be the gold mask.
No, that could
Okay.
be it. The golden mask give them the extra little bits of powers, but
Yeah.
they're all right.
I would like to make a recommendation.
Do
Okay.
it.
Replace accuracy with strength.
Accuracy the
replace?
same like if Pahato uses it, that's to get kicked off the Coley team. It's cheating.
Yeah. I also don't really think accuracy.
I like accuracy though.
I don't think accuracy is a really compelling power.
Well, we can add it.
Accuracy is a skill you train over time.
No,
Also,
well,
strength.
we can just add strength. Why do we need to get rid of accuracy?
Because we only have like
No,
I
we don't.
presume
Not anymore.
Purple's intention for Toa masks is not to give like Kopaka the powers of night vision and sonar. I think her intention, I might be wrong, is to put these down and then we can pick and choose. She's putting down different character attributes that make sense.
Right. No, I'm saying that like what we can have more mask powers than just right now. There's 7 here. Just
Exactly.
add
We can
strength.
still have
Yeah.
accuracy as a power, but yeah, we can put down strength. I just
Right,
don't know if Pahatu should have accuracy or like if any of the Toa should.
Yeah, that's fine.
Maybe have a torn.
Well, I mean, Pahatu's not going to return to his sports life,
Yeah, rip. His career's over.
Yeah, I like
But-
Scorpion's idea. Maybe
It's a
it's
bummer.
just a name. Coordination. It's the
Sure.
accuracy.
Same shtick, different trick.
That's
Okay,
fine.
thank you, Meso. Yeah, strength. We also had another suggestion. Another mass power
Strength is really
pitch
generic.
from-
All these powers are going to be a little generic, Purple. Sorry. But
I
not-
really hope that I
Yeah,
pronounce
the
this
whole
right.
point is that they're generic.
Kizar.
Go on.
He suggested some strength, speed, sense, motive.
What?
You have an uncanny knack for guessing what others are feeling. Don't know if I'm on board with that.
Empathy.
Call it empathy instead of sense motive. Sure.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Night vision, pain resistance. That's an interesting one.
Nothing
Water
else.
A mask of
affinity.
tolerance.
You can hold your breath longer. Levitation, telescope, camouflage, healing, wild empathy. You can influence and sense the feelings of animals and nearby wildlife.
I saw water breathing. Did Matoran breathe? Did we
Yes,
settle
they did.
this? They do?
Yeah, we
They
did.
do. The thing is, I'm not sure
Let's not do water breathing.
the
Though.
water Matoran. Like, I think the water Matoran can just breathe water.
Yeah. That was always the thing in G1. Keep that out, but the others are cool.
Yeah.
Maybe better names, but the ideas are good.
That could be a. Let me think. It does make more sense for the water Matoran to breathe water. It could be part of something to do with their elemental abilities.
Yeah. I don't know, because part of their thing is underwater, so.
Yeah, you're right. No, that makes sense. I'm just trying to figure out. We don't want them to be the one mutated Matoran above the others.
Yeah.
Wadu is kicked off the team due to supposed usage of steroids. He's grown taller. Terrible.
I was thinking that mass powers over time could possibly affect the Matoran body. That's why
Yeah,
Toa
you-
are. That's why Toa would be allowed to use them because their bodies would be taller and better able to handle them.
Man, I think it's more of just another political thing where it's like they're abusing the powers against each other,
Right.
and it's
True. I think for now, let's probably end this. I'm gonna get Craig out
Wait a
of here
minute.
just so the files aren't too big. What's up?
Could you? What about corrupted mass?
What
We're
about
gonna like. So what if part of why the Toa were originally called down was because of corrupted mass powers that were abused so much that they became corrupted, and it was eating away at Matoran and also affecting Rahi.
Well, that ties in. That way you can bring in a bunch of other powers because G1 had a bunch of similar stuff. Especially the Makuta, Fentoka, and Mystica masks.
I wouldn't say that like corrupted masks would be like different powers, right? They would just be
Negative
like,
versions.
They're not even negative versions. They would just it would just be a sign on the mask that it's wearing down on the user. Like the user's been using it too much.
Yeah, it's like if
Yeah.
you've had a little too much meth, then your teeth start to rot away.
Yeah, you start to go all crazy and stuff.
Right.
But like the
What
thing
an
that
extreme comparison.
what I'm thinking of is because one of the pitches that remember that like apotheosis story that I read out to, or I didn't read out, but like linked. One of the pitches had like a really giant Rahi that was different than all the other Rahi. It could think on its own, it could do things, and it was like crazy and corrupted. And one of the Matoran marks, there's no way that Neho would have allowed that in her waters. So like I'm thinking maybe like what if there's still some residual corrupted mask that the Toa just missed, and that could have affected Rahi nowadays.
That'd be cool.
So that there's still like corrupted Rahi that are out there.
Sure.
And part of that corruption was why the last Toa were called down, is to stop that. So it's it's corrupting Matoran, it's corrupting Rahi. It's just an overall like problem.
Stories behind that could be that the mask influenced the programming and override some basic functions in the Matoran, right? And so by becoming corrupted, that starts to leak into the Rahi, which are built on the same kind of system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, all right.
Also works because technically, since Makuta is the one who's bringing the mask back out into the surface, he is the one who is, in comparison to his G1 self, bringing corrupted mask and using that.
What if like the mask control can work with people that have masks, right? and so that's why that's another reason why he wants to like get these back into circulation.
Well, I mean, because they have masks before, though.
Yeah, but
I
the
think
ones that
he
have
meant to
powers.
say the powered masks.
Yeah, the powered masks.
So does the mask of control just not work for non-powered masks?
Oh no, actually, yeah, that would cut some stuff in the. Yeah, never mind. Forget it.
All right, for now, I'm
That
gonna
would
get
make
Craig
sense
out of
if I
here.
tried.
We can further conceptualize this.
I've got.
Leave your
this is so
thoughts.
much fun.
Come
File
on,
can't get big.
guys.
What a 180 from
if
only
this
like
goes-
half an hour ago.
Takes some creative problem solving and some Scorpion Strikes. Clever idea.
Ladies
if it
and
only
gentlemen,
was this easy.
is why we continue to have discussions like this and don't back down, because it might possibly lead to this kind of a result.
Compromise works wonders, and typically the outside perspective also helps. That's why we toss it to you guys. That's why you guys are so important to all this. You can really like conceptualize stuff that we don't see in the heat of the moment, and then that helps change things later on. So just in case this does become a podcast, just in case this does become a podcast, thanks for listening. I might chop this on to another one, so if it sounds awkward, apologies in advance. I just do like a quick outro with me. I'm Meso.
I'm Var.
I'm LJ.
I'm Jonathan.
And thanks everybody for listening to whatever this ends up becoming. I think it's going to be lumped into a podcast to be a stand one
Bonus,
video.
it could be bonus, it could be standalone.
Leave
bonus.
your thoughts in the comments, and we'll see you all next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.